Hey everyone, welcome to a Saturday afternoon stream. I'm here with my good friend Crash Thompson, who, we've known each other for a while now at this
Oh
point. What's
wow.
it been, 5, 6 years now?
It's probably been at least 5 or 6 years at this point. It's been
Well,
a
yeah,
long
we
time.
go way back.
Way back.
That is the main point of the story there. But
Oh,
guys, let us know first and foremost if we're sounding okay, if we're looking okay, everything
say,
like that.
can you hear us? Can you see us? The whole rigmarole of the fun part of streaming. Like,
Exactly.
does everything work?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you see me? Those are
Yeah,
the two vital things.
yeah. That's always the worst part about streaming too, because you got to do this for like 5 minutes before the chat catches up, and
Right, exactly.
like
And
we're
it's
in
like,
that we're in that weird limbo right now where we don't know if we technically exist yet.
yep.
It's
All right.
very existential.
All right. It seems like I've seen here we are. Love you guys. Thank you for the love. Yep. I got a yep. It
Okay,
seems
let's.
like they're seeing in here and it's just fine. All right.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Perfect. Well, just off the top, yeah, for a little precursor to this stream, as far as what this is going to be, we just wanted to do. We had Crash and I had talked about doing a little collab where we talked about, I kind of got inspired after I saw your update video. Crash is a content creator in the music community, currently taking a bit of a hiatus, and at the end of your update video, you mentioned kind of feeling a lot of different pressures as a creator and especially of trying to keep up with like releases and music and just the pressure to have the right opinion or feel a certain way about something. Do you want to talk a little bit more
Yeah,
about just your decision to take a break and
for sure.
what you did in the first place for anyone who might not be familiar with your channel?
For sure, for sure. Actually, before we do, we're getting some feedback here. They say I'm a little quiet, so I'm going to turn my gain up just a little bit.
Cool.
Y'all, again, hit up the chat. Let me know if I'm sounding okay. I can adjust stuff on the fly. John can adjust stuff on the
Yep.
fly. But just
Just
let
let
us
us
know in the
know.
chat, and we'll do it. So
Cool.
just wanted to address that before. But yeah. Well, again, to introduce myself for some of y'all that don't maybe know me or who I am. I've goofed around on your channel a bit from time
Yeah,
to time.
you've
So
you've you've popped up a few times. We
you
even did
know,
a bit where we appeared as each other.
yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't know what you were talking about with that last baby metal review. That's all I have to say about that. But
Yeah, I just didn't seem like myself in that one.
I know you were having kind of an off day. But no, yeah. About to say, my name's Crash Thompson. Again, I'm a YouTube person in this whole. I never know how to properly introduce that. But I'm a YouTube content creator person. I don't know. I'm in the same general music sphere that John. I talk about new releases. I follow the music trends. I talk about stuff. I used to be. Some of you may remember when I was the rock critic way back in the day. God, even that's going on. It's been like four. It's been a good 4 years since I was the rock critic at this
Yeah,
point.
that's crazy to think how much time passed that fast since the rebrand and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Holy cow, that feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but yeah,
And
no,
that's when we met. We met when you were the rock critic still.
yeah, we met way. That's to say, I think we've known each other so long. You remember the bad fedora days? Were you
Oh yeah,
around for those? Yeah.
that's
Okay.
why I
Yeah.
made that joke at that one rock coliseum.
I mean, you weren't wrong. Is the thing. You totally weren't. But yeah. Again, that's to say, I've been doing the music YouTuber thing for a long time too.
Yeah.
And like towards the end of this year, I absolutely hit the wall when it came to okay. The thing is, keeping up with I know because this isn't just a me thing, but this is like an across the board thing. Following new music in this year, 2021, I, John, I'm amazed you've been keeping up as well as you have. I'm amazed anyone keeps up with everything that's coming out.
It's a mile a minute, man. It's just
Yeah,
everything zooms
yes,
by. I get
yeah.
overwhelmed just looking at, like, I'll get on Reddit or somewhere and you'll see, like, a list of the new releases for music this week, and it's like a scroll should be rolling
Yeah,
out.
it's like everybody and their mother is dropping release, and it's not just a bunch of like obscure stuff where it's like, oh, okay, this band that has like 30 listeners on Spotify. Okay, I don't have to care about that. It's no,
Sure.
Adele is dropping, and Billie
Yeah.
Eilish is dropping, and
Yeah.
fucking
Everybody
Iron
who's
Maiden.
somebody.
Yeah.
Everybody from metal there's like a metal release, a pop
Mhm.
release, like an R&B release. There's always something from like every genre that's ultra important at every second, you
Yeah,
know?
it's felt like it's been an avalanche every single week.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of folks. I mean, it's not just me, but a lot of folks are feeling the burnout of it all.
Yeah.
Like poor Mark,
Oh
Spectrum
man,
Pulse
with
Mark.
On the Pulse and everything that he does, and
Yeah.
I really do. I feel whenever so Crash, you made a little in your update video. I think it might have been
Mm.
because you kind of did the update stream and then you did an actual update video. I believe it was the first video where you put in a clip that was honestly it was hard for me to watch, but it was good for me to see where you just kind of let your audience
I
in a little bit on a bit
yeah.
of kind of a breakdown. Is it
It
fair to
was
call it that?
it's it's fair. It's just a moment where the thing is, it was just a moment where everything just kind of caught up to me,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like those kind of moments are rare to actually capture on camera, and
Yeah.
I don't know, when you try to explain, I don't know, Burnout as a YouTuber, if you don't actually do this kind of
Yeah.
thing, it's hard to explain, because I don't,
Yes.
people don't realize, a lot of folks don't necessarily realize how much work, even if it's a simple sit in front of the camera and talk about a record thing.
Yeah.
Even if it looks like it's not a particularly complicated video, a lot of folks don't realize the kind of work that goes into even simple videos
Yeah.
on our
It's and I think a lot of it also is that people maybe don't realize how much pressure there is to. I think it boils down to having the right opinion. It's almost also picking
Yeah.
the right things to talk about, and like, oh, you
Oh.
talked about this, but you didn't talk about this. What's wrong?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
there's a million different things that you can go with
Oh,
that. But
so
to
much. Yeah.
to rewind just a moment
Mm.
before we get into where we are now and some of our current feelings, how did you get your start like on YouTube? Like what type of content did you start off making?
Yeah. See, that's the thing with me. I never, well, like I feel like a lot. Well, I feel like a lot of people do this when they started. At least when they started all the way back when I did literally a decade ago.
Same.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just doing it just because it seemed like a stupid, fun little hobby. That was, I don't know. There wasn't any pressure. There wasn't any pressure. There wasn't any hustle. There wasn't any expectations.
Yeah, there was no expectations. You were kind of doing it as a way of entertaining yourself and I guess kind of like scratching an itch for maybe something that you wanted to talk about and you had a heavy interest in.
Like I said, it was just like a goof. It was basically started out as a hobby, as something
Sure.
that honestly, the way I personally started out, way back in the day, I actually used to do stand up for a little
Yes.
while. I did,
Yes.
I did stand up. I was never anything bigger than an open micer or anything, but I did stand up for about 2 or 3 years, and I didn't have any credits to my name though. Usually, when an MC will bring you up on stage, they'll say, "Oh, this person has won such and such comedy festival, and they were featured on this TV show or radio program." They have credits they'll bring you
Right.
up with, but because I was Mr. Goofy dickhead nobody who'd never accomplished anything, people would
That's how they introduced you.
yeah, exactly. They wouldn't know how to bring me up. It would just be like, here's Crash. Everyone
Here's
get around
Crash.
Crash, I guess. Sure. He's got a weird name. Hi, Crash. That's
Is that because of a car accident?
but I actually had one MC who was particularly drunk one night actually brought me up as here's this asshole Crash Thompson. Clap if you want. I don't care.
Dang.
After getting one too many of those, I figured, okay, I need some kind of credits. I need something I can do that people can introduce me with. So
Yeah.
YouTube was super duper easy to break into back in the day. So
It was.
This
Yeah.
was also during back in the time when a lot of review shows. This was like, this was when Channel Awesome was still a big thing. And,
Right. Yeah.
before some of the dark times.
Before
there.
a certain critic made his Pink Floyd parody.
Yeah, this was way before those times.
Yeah.
This was But that was a big trend. I figured, hey, that looks like fun. That looks like something I could probably do. I have a camera. Sure, I'll make a dumb YouTube show, and that can be something people can bring me up to. He hosts The Rock Critic on YouTube. Here's
Give him a
Crash.
round of applause. Come on up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, the ironic thing is, YouTube took off so much more than
stand
stand
up.
up ever did.
And you could, I'm sure, given that both of us kind of have a background in comedy in a way, because I used to do sketch comedy on YouTube.
Right.
You know,
Again,
it's
way
it
back in the day.
but you can work bits of that into what you do in your videos. You
Mhm.
know,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and I would
believe me,
imagine that it's creatively fulfilling whenever you were able to make long form content, but also do skits within that and stuff.
See, yeah, that was my thing. The videos I always enjoyed making were those longer form sort of videos, those videos where I could just basically just geek the fuck out on a topic for like 30 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes. I don't know, back in the day, I don't know, back before we had to worry about analytics and SEO and whether you were feeding the precious algorithm.
Right, before you were sacrificing your firstborn to the algorithm,
Oh
even though
my
I don't have a firstborn.
Oh my god. No, that is some real talk though. That is
It
I don't know,
is.
day when you didn't have to put thought into things like that and you could just do whatever the fuck you want.
And you still had a
Yeah.
shot. You still had a shot at breaking out, you
Yeah,
know,
yes,
and it wasn't oversaturated, and I think I think it can be discouraging, because I have people tell me now, they'll be like, I tried doing reviews, or I tried talking about music for a year or 6 months even, and I couldn't gain any traction, and I gave up. And
Yeah,
it's real.
that's also another part of it. Like back in the day, back when we were starting, there was I don't know. I think that's kind of how we started gaining so much traction, was because there wasn't a big market out
Yeah.
there. It was you were doing your thing. I
Yeah.
was probably one of the only people talking about like rock specifically.
Yeah.
It's
Like
weird.
exclusive.
Like
Exclusive.
exclusively rock. So
You and Luke.
me and Luke, actually, it's weird. We started around the same time, but we weren't aware of each other until like 2 or 3 years into doing it. It was like, oh, hey, there's this other guy who does rock. Oh, hey, you're a rock dude too. Oh, hey, what's up? You're not crazy, right? Yeah. So, but
nope,
no,
we're all
like,
good.
well,
and you're still
I
know
mean,
each
yeah.
other to this day.
Yeah. I mean, I know that last part's debatable, but
Yeah. Oh, we've seen
yeah.
Lil Sweetie. We know.
Hey, you know what? Little Sweetie protects this house.
It's true. It's true.
The thing, but I know that's the thing. I don't know. Back in the day, there was a much smaller pool to work with. There weren't as many sort of expectations. There weren't as many swords of Damocles hanging out over your head. You didn't have to worry about getting doxxed or getting the channel hacked necessarily. I mean, I suppose it did. I suppose it was always a background concern, but these things didn't. I don't know. That was the kind of thing it would happen to like PewDiePie, or
Right.
happen to like
They would go after the top creators, not
yeah.
us little nobodies, you know?
That's if you were under 50K subscribers, you didn't have to worry about shit. And nobody, I don't know, you would have to try to get people to get on your ass.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
I don't know, that's the thing. As the years have gone on though, like so much, and it's just one of those things where so much other stuff has entered the sort of conversation. I mean, we've all seen it happen this year. Again, Mark, I don't know if you're in the chat. I hate to keep putting our buddy Mark, Spectrum Pulse, on the spot, but man, the year that guy has had. He's been harassed and full-blown doxxed by fans who will not be named. Because I don't want to get you into trouble.
Fans of a certain genre and a certain band within said genre.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, back when we were goofing around, making our little sketch comedies and doing our goofy stuff, because hey, lol, isn't this funny? Let's put on costumes and act stupid and talk about music because we're dorks.
Yeah.
Back in that day, if you would have ever told me one of us would get in trouble with Forbes.
Yeah.
Because of what we do.
Forbes. Yeah, you'd get a little write-up about something that you said. It's insane. And it just shows you how much things have shifted in the
Yeah.
past decade, but not even decade. I would say the past 5 years,
Yeah.
and
Oh
it's,
yeah.
I mean,
And
we think back to
the,
where we were then versus now,
yeah, the
night
thing
and
is,
day.
the risks are a lot higher, and like we were talking about earlier, like the pool is so much. Again, that's both good and bad because a lot more channels are just out there doing what we do. The thing
Yeah,
is, there's a lot of channels out there that are great. You know, guys who
sure.
have come out like Mike the Snare and
Yes.
I'm trying to think of some of the others. A
Deep
lot of
cuts.
deep cuts.
Yeah.
About to
There's a
say, yeah.
they serve different niches though, and I think in a way that, like you said, that can be a good thing because it
Yeah.
proves that there's kind of a corner for everything, and it's okay to kind of have your own niche. Because
Yeah.
like someone like Deep Cuts is going to be more like, um, I don't know how else to put it other than deeper music stuff that
Oh yeah.
requires a little bit of extra thinking. Sometimes, literally, it's in the name, Deep
I
Cuts.
mean, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got something lighter, like I think what maybe like me and Luke do is a little bit more on that side of things. And
Yeah.
then you've got like the more critical side, like I can be that. Mark is definitely that
Mark is
sometimes.
definitely that. Oh yeah.
And then
And
how would you describe yourself? Kind of
see,
more of like a neutral, kind of more of like
uh,
a middle ground?
see, that's the thing. I've never quite known how to describe my personal role in things. I've always, you know, that episode of It's Always Sunny, where Charlie Day, where Charlie is in the back of the van and cuts the brake wires and just screams
Yes.
"Wild card!"
Wild
I
card.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of the chaotic id of things. I don't know because I've never had a defined focus. You know, I do long form content, but I do essays, and I did new reviews up until very
Yeah,
recently.
you did
And
like unscripteds and
yeah,
quickies
I
and
I just kind of tried to do everything and I've even talked about like video games and other stuff.
yes.
I don't know. I've always just done everything. I don't know. I always just have tried to do anything and everything I like to do. You know, so
Yeah.
I never had much of a focus. So it's
It's
that's
and that can make it difficult too. I think sometimes that can put on additional pressure whenever you feel like you don't entirely know where your focus needs to be. And that's, if I can talk about my channel for just a second,
oh, absolutely.
that's kind of where I've been at, is struggling to find a focus and feeling torn.
Yeah.
Because I think we
Oh, that.
all as creators get into the feel sometimes like we're kind of in a corner, like, oh well, I feel like I owe people this type of content because
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah.
made this type of content. But at the same time, it's like I'm not really happy doing this right now. And
Bingo.
like you talked about, I think to circle back to kind of how we opened the stream to talk
Mm,
about how things just, I think 2020, I felt it a lot too, just because of how
mm.
awful of a year that was. But what
Yeah.
set it in stone for me is realizing, hey, it wasn't so much just the year. It's like, this is kind of the way things are now. The constant influx of things coming at you. And I know that this could be like this for any creator, I'm sure, given if you're in like the movie community or if,
Oh
you're
yeah.
whatever it is that you talk about. But everything now flies so fast that if you've not talked about
Mm.
the new Adele album the day it's out, then it's
Then
old news.
forget about it.
And
You're tanked. You're late to the conversation. You know, oh that was yesterday. I don't know.
right.
I remember back in the day, I could wait like 2 or 3 weeks before I could release a review on an album a month after it came out, and it would
Hmm.
still at least get decent numbers.
Yeah,
You
it would
know, but
perform well enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if you're not immediately on that hype train, your numbers just absolutely die out there.
Exactly. And that's, I think a lot of people ask, like, me specifically, I've seen plenty of comments like, oh, why haven't you reviewed this? Why haven't you reviewed that?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have made a conscious decision to pull back on the amount of things that I do. One, because YouTube will literally basically punish your channel, for lack of a better word, if you're not, pulling a certain kind of watch time, or
Yep.
if you're not pulling a certain amount of numbers or whatever compared to your other content. And both of us flirted with the idea of doing roundup shows. Like you did Femi, Fuck I Missed It, where you would cover a lot in one, and I was doing the album awards. And can we just admit right here, right now, how much fucking work those are?
See, I think we both went into those shows with the idea, oh, this will cut back on the amount of
Yes,
work I'll have to do.
yes,
In
we
our
both did.
naivete.
We both approached it like that, and I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
and I still do in theory like the concept for both of those things because it does sound great and you can talk it up in your head. But when you sit down and you're like, fuck, I've got, you would do even more than me. You were a madman doing like 40
Yep.
records and one
Yep.
video. But, I'm over here trying to do 20, 25 reviews in a video. It's you sit down and you feel consumed, I think, because because we would do that quarterly, right? You did yours
I did
quarterly?
mine quarterly, yes.
Yeah, I was doing mine quarterly as
Yeah.
well. The second the quarter starts, that timer's on.
Exactly, the countdown, the ticking time bomb of once that was that Fimi dread was something I always had even from the first episode I started that I was like, oh hey, this is a nice idea. I would finish it. As soon as I would finish up a next Fimi, I would realize tick tock, more
Yep.
new releases are coming, more new stuff is
And
gonna
and
happen.
and you realize that your queue is slowly filling up,
Filling
filling
up,
up, filling
filling up.
up.
Yeah, and the thing is, and again, especially this year, Fimi, or at least when I was doing Fimis, it was just absolutely, again, because there's so much. I would cover 40 records per Fimi in my
Yeah.
thing, and there was still so much stuff I hadn't had the chance to
Yeah, you
touch
feel
the
like you're just
iceberg.
barely scratching
Yeah,
at the surface.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing too was with my Fimmies, I would open them up. Half of them would be my picks, and the other half I would let people, the audience pick. I would
Yeah.
let the people in my private Discord. They would actually get. We have had a system where we would pick. I would let them pick stuff. And the thing is, in 2021, I basically this was always kind of a sort of issue, but the thing is, I would again, I would open those requests up with the intention of thinking, okay, there's some big releases here that I purposefully left off. Again, this is a way to gauge, okay, do people want me to talk about this record, or is it
Right.
something
Is
maybe I
there
can
going to
skip?
be backlash? Is there going to be
Yeah,
anger or whatever?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I would open it up to the crowd basically and say, okay, what do you guys want me to talk about here? With also the impression of thinking they'll pick some of the stuff that I need to cover, to
Right.
just get some stuff on there.
Right.
But the thing is, at the same time, some people would make those picks that I needed to kind of get on my schedule, but more often than not, people would pick like uh,
Obscure.
uh, this bands. I call them micro bands. Just
Yeah.
people with like 300 acts on Spotify or 300
And
listeners on
yeah.
Spotify, or someone would throw an act on there just because I don't know. I didn't know what else to pick. So I don't know. I haven't even heard this. I don't know. You tell me what you
I
think.
haven't even heard it, but you should hear it and tell me if
Yeah,
I should listen to it, and then I might listen to it.
yeah. Like okay, I have to miss out on the new Kendrick Lamar or the new Halsey or
Yeah,
something
because I'm
because
listening to Basement Boy.
yeah, and again, this is not to
It's
knock
not to
like
knock a
smaller
small
acts
artist.
or
No.
anything
No.
like that. But again, especially in a year where there's so much hustle, where there's so much you have to pick up on, it's like I had to actually institute a rule with the last Fimi I did. I was like, okay, guys, please, there's so much on the schedule. There's so much big stuff on the schedule. Can y'all pick some stuff that is like going to be beneficial? I don't mean
That
any.
people
I
would
don't.
want you to, that a large audience of people would
Yeah,
want to hear you talk about.
yeah. I don't mean any ill will to Zach and the Zach tones, but
Yeah.
like two people are gonna care about Zach and the Zach tones, and the thing is, I don't know, if Zach and the Zach tones don't pull a moron police and don't release an underground. See, that's part of the thing too. I don't, because some of the best releases I have found through those smaller suggestions, those little cracks and corners that other folks might not have discovered. Hell, I mean, how much of a chance would Spanish love songs have had for all four of us last year if
Yeah,
folks didn't bring them to our attention like that?
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
there is a good side to that, but the harsh truth time people, the reality of it is a lot of these bands that are kind of floating around in the underground, I mean, a lot of them are there for a reason.
Yeah.
I have listened to so many. Oh man, this is like the next big thing, man. Oh, this is give it a shot. There's so much I love about this, and it's like, okay, I remember. Yeah, it's metalcore. All right,
Yeah.
it's
Oh, it
another.
sure is. It sure
Oh
is, and it's done. Well, that's the thing. It's like there's, like you said, there's perhaps a reason as to why it's like that, but also some things are just going to stay in their niche because they
I
don't want to do anything different than what everybody else is doing. You
yeah,
know,
some
they're
stuff
gonna
just
follow the leader instead of setting a path. You know.
yeah, and again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that,
No,
but from
it's
our
just that as
perspective,
a from a creator's standpoint, I think that we both sometimes I think the confusion in us just kind of talking it out right now in real time shows what we go through in order to
yeah,
one, maybe decide what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do, and just how, so if you're feeling that much pressure sometimes it can almost make you just like, oh, Windows is shutting down, you know, like we're
yeah,
just,
yeah.
you just
No,
want to back away from it all
see,
because I find so much of the time that I just sometimes I'm just so torn on, like, there's 8 to 10 things that I could make a video on right this moment that it just makes me want to shut down because I don't know what to do because you feel so much
bingo,
pressure as a
bingo.
result of that.
Bingo. There's also so much of that. Not only that comes from again that for something that was particularly bad this year, the videos you could be making, the videos you
Yeah.
should be making, but it's
Yeah.
also even when you make those videos, even when you come across an album and you do stick on to something that can help with boost your numbers or whatever. What happens if I don't know, especially these days? What happens when you have to put out a review or a video that is gonna ruffle some feathers. Like what
Yeah.
happens? Like what happens when you don't stand again, like BTS,
Sure.
or what happens when you have the wrong opinion about
Yeah.
something? Like oh, then you have to deal again with the negative feedback that can be just an extra thing on top of everything. It's like okay, it's like okay, y'all wanted me. There's an artist. Good example of this, even though their fans have always been super chill with me.
Hmm.
Absolutely wonderful, chill. Again, love to all y'all who love this artist. But the thing is, I'm not on board. This artist has just never ever done anything for me. A guy like Jeff Rosenstock.
Okay. Sure.
Jeff
Sure.
Rosenstock, huge guy in like the punk world right now. He's a big producer. The guy. The thing is, guy's very talented. Guy has a lot of albums going for him. Honestly, I respect the hell out of Jeff Rosenstock. Love that he's out there doing his thing. Love his production work in some cases. He's produced a few albums I really, really enjoyed. And
Yeah.
again, all around dude. Love his hustle. Love everything he's doing out there.
Just not so
But I
much the
don't care
music
about the
itself.
music. I don't know. The
Yeah.
music has just never resonated with me. It's not even like I hate it. It's just like always in one ear, out the other. Nothing ever sticks with me when it comes to Jeff Rosenstock. But the thing is, I had to actually stop people from requesting and getting on my ass about, hey, the new Jeff Rosenstock drop. Are you going to review the new Jeff Rosenstock? Hey, Jeff Rosenstock, you need to talk about Jeff Rosenstock. Oh, hey, talk about Jeff Rosenstock and Jeff Rosenstock and Jeff Rosenstock. It's like, I don't really care that much about Jeff Rosenstock, or I don't have much to say. I'll mention it on like social media and stuff, guys. I
Right.
mean, I don't really care about Jeff Rosenstock. No, Crash, tell us anyway. Talk about Jeff Rosenstock. We want to hear about the new Jeff Rosenstock so bad. The message after message, Rose Rosenstock, Jeff Rosenstock, and then okay, I'll put it on a Fimi or I'll do a review or something and be like, I feel like the new Jeff Rosenstock is kind of mid. I'm happy you're happy, but
And then
whatever. I
it
kind
goes
of
either
don't
one
care.
of two ways, I would guess. It's either one, people are upset about it and saying like, "I don't think you gave it a fair shot. You need to try it again." Or
Yeah.
two, it'll be like, they're just on to the next request. Like the same people that were commenting,
Oh
begging for
yeah.
that, will move on to the next thing that it's begging
Yeah.
for. And that's the thing. I don't want people to think that it's like wrong to say
Oh
like, "Oh, we want it. I hope you talk about blank," because that's not really the case either. It's just
no.
whenever it can
It,
feel overwhelming.
overwhelming because that's the thing like the thing is when you do that to one person, person requesting something like that, it doesn't you don't feel it from your side because you're just asking about it, you're just coming in. But the thing, as creators, we get probably, John, I can't imagine how many requests you get whenever whenever Green Day drops something, or whenever,
Oh yeah,
you
within
will
the 5 minutes of it,
yeah,
it's like if the video's not done and out and
yeah, exactly. The person sending that one request doesn't realize more often than not that even with a smaller creator like me, there are probably, especially if it's someone like in my case, like that we're known for, like if it's Weezer in my
yeah,
case, or somebody else
right,
like that, it'll be like, thoughts on when Crash, you, dude, you have merch on this,
yeah,
you have thoughts on
yeah.
thoughts on thoughts on
Thoughts
thoughts
on
on
thoughts
thoughts
on
on
thoughts on
thoughts on thoughts on. It's been
thoughts
10 whole
on.
seconds. Where's the thoughts on? Thoughts on thoughts on. It's like we will get dozens, sometimes
It,
hundreds of
it's
those.
it strips. Let's get a little bit into this and the whole idea of hype culture and stuff that surrounds
Yes.
like
Oh
stuff
my
that's
goodness.
out all the time. Whenever
Yeah.
something
Oh,
drops, it's just like I think for us and for me, I guess I should say just especially for me, as somebody who covers a lot of new releases and even talks about like music news and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just the idea of something like the moment it happens, you as a creator, even if you're not necessarily even seeing the comments, because I've distanced
mm,
myself from a lot of things, including like reading comments and all the time, just because it can be so detrimental. But the damage is kind of there because it kind of lays in your subconscious that it's like,
yeah.
oh well, I need to get on this right away. And I think that um a goal for me is to kind of just start retraining, or at least continuing to try and retrain my mind to be like, just because there might be an ask for instant gratification from my audience, it doesn't mean that I have to read that right away, look at that right away, or even give in to that right away. Because at the end of the day, I should be able to enjoy the things and enjoy the process of what I'm talking about and listening to.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You have to train yourself to kind of step back from some of the feedback and realize that not everything is hot fire that it seems like it is. I know that was. I feel like that was part of the reason I was burning out so much, was because, again, I had to focus so much on what was demanded and what I felt like I had to do and the things I had to keep, instead of realize just doing what I wanted to do. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
why I enjoyed it so much back in the day. That's why I got into it, because it was enjoyable to just do it.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's the thing. In anything you do, if it gets to the point where everything is a have to, oh, I have to do this, and I have to cover this, and I have to take care of this so that I get on top of this, and I can't remember, and I can't forget about this because that's
Yeah.
coming up. If it gets
And
to so
it
much obligation,
your obligation drains your enjoyment,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you don't get to allow yourself to have that experience with it sometimes. And I'm
yeah,
not like, I think for so long, and I don't know how much I've really talked about this. Maybe I've talked about it in videos or streams in passing before, but there's just a sense of shame that I unfortunately feel sometimes, because I
mm,
feel so bad that I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I'm not
yeah,
hearing enough. I feel like I'm not doing the right things, and I start
yeah.
beating you. Whenever you start beating yourself up, it kind of plays into the whole, I guess, unproductive cycle, where already you felt like you were distancing yourself, because when you're overwhelmed, you can start backing away,
See,
and
yeah.
you know
The thing, it basically becomes a treadmill.
it
You just,
does.
you set up these expectations that you'll never be able to meet as one
Right.
individual person.
Right.
And the
I'll be
thing,
happy as soon as I finish this video. I'll be happy as soon as if this video does well,
yeah,
whatever.
it's the
And
carrot on the stick, and after a while, you run and you run and you run, and you just get tired. You,
yeah.
you, you get tired, and you'd be surprised how long you can do that without realizing the effect that it has on you. And actually, in the chats, I want to point out something real quick.
Sure.
Someone here, Al Varela, apologies if I'm mispronouncing that, but they said, yes, 100%. Sometimes you have to realize you don't need a take if you don't
Yeah.
have anything significant to say.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, that was another thing that was kind of boiling. That was another thing that was boiling me down too, because I don't know. I would listen to so many records, and like sometimes I don't know. I just don't have much. Again, like with Jeff Rosenstock, for example, I just
Right.
don't have
What
much
am
to
I
say.
adding to the
Yeah,
conversation
what
if I do hop in? Like I'm
exactly?
just gonna say, it's fine, not really for me. And that's kind of like where I feel you can feel backed against the wall if you, even especially if you've Do you have an example of maybe an artist that you've talked about or a band that you've like really like enjoyed in the past, but they put out something new and it's like people maybe expect you to talk about that 100% for sure, but you just might not have a strong feeling towards the new material?
Everything Weezer does these days. Everything Weezer does.
Well, there you go. There.
Again.
You burned out on that because I can't even imagine how much time you spent in that world because of the videos that you did deep diving in the past.
Oh yeah, like again, I don't have any regrets about making those videos necessarily. I regret the costume, I guess, but I don't waka waka. But I like my old work. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't keep it up. So
sure,
I like it. But the thing is too that my older Weezer videos were literally some of the first I ever did. They're between 7 to 9 years old now.
Right.
My thoughts have changed. Weezer themselves have changed a lot.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, we're in different places, and I just don't. I get these days. I don't give. I do not care what Weezer does.
Yeah, I get that. You were in that world for so long that you attracted a lot of people who love Weezer, so that I couldn't imagine that if you're not having a strong feeling towards what they're doing, that the fact that you still have people clamoring and harassing and going out of their way to like, come for you and be like, where's the new video on Weezer, Crash?
Yeah, it's like,
why aren't you updating the discography review for them? Whatever.
Oh, every time Weezer drops an album, it's like, when's the new Rise and Fall episode coming?
I can't imagine what you'll be going through next year with their 4 albums.
No, people, just right here, right now, I want you to know 100% for certain. No, just no.
Retrospective?
4 albums in 1 year? No.
4-hour retrospective video is what I heard. Is what they heard in the comments.
Don't even tease the good people, man. Don't even do it. But the thing, like, again, like, you grow. The thing is, you grow and you change as a person.
Sure.
Hopefully you grow and you change,
Absolutely. I know for a fact that I am not the same content. You're talking 7 to 9 years ago. I've been on the platform for just as long. I started in 2009. I was 17 years old in my senior year of high school when I started in 2009. I am not by any stretch of the phrase the same person. That person got yeeted out the window about a decade ago, and that, like, it's just so long removed. Yeah, but like you said, there's content from the past that, like, I am still proud of, and it's like, even just because I was that person then doesn't mean I'm this person now. But also something that kind of popped into my head a minute ago when we were kind of beating around the bush with this is that there's a lot of times where I feel like your enjoyment of something can also be sidelined or derailed by that idea of like having the right opinion, or that I think to a certain degree, you get it in your head like, if you mispronounce something, if I accidentally slip up or whatever, these things, the reason why I script a lot of things now is because, I hate to admit this, but I'm so scared of like fucking things up because it like gets in my head for whatever reason. Like, as somebody, both of us, people who battle some somewhat intense anxiety and stuff, like that stuff, you don't want it echoing in your head, but it does. It's like, oh fuck, how stupid am I? I accidentally left that in, or I accidentally showed the wrong album cover, or
I hate to admit it, but one of the best sort of things you can have if you want to get into YouTube is just absolutely no fucks to give. Like, honestly, it can, like, if you make a mistake and just don't give a fuck, I fucked up. I don't care. Fuck you. Yeah. You'd be surprised how much of an asset that can be, because I'm like you. I'm the same way. I've made some of those big mistakes. Anytime I mispronounce even worse, if there's no agreed upon pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
Or if the pronunciation, I remember one of the most grievous examples I ever had was in a review I wrote for Metal Sucks way back in the day when I used to work for them. Mm-hmm. I had to review an album, and John, I'm afraid I might, if I blow up the chat with this, I sincerely apologize, but I just want to show you a good example. This is a great example. I had to review a Children of Bodom.
Oh, yes. You mean Bodom?
Bodom? Or Bodom? Or Bodom? The thing is, I have heard 7 different pronunciations of that band over my time. I don't know. Growing up, we always called it Children of Bottom. And
Yeah.
oh, you should have seen the
The comments
comments
section on Metal Sucks. Oh.
in that video, but in particular the Metal Comments website section.
Yeah.
Back when they had their own comment section. Oh my goodness! You thought I'd said a slur.
Yeah.
So
It's
people-
like people will act like that's the only thing. And I think at surface level, to kind of, I'm trying to put this into perspective for maybe someone who doesn't regularly make content, what that can feel like, even though it is a very small thing and people might just think that they're being helpful by pointing it out. And I get that those intentions can be pure where they come from. But at the end of the day, think about it. If either of us just uploaded a 30-minute video, you know, with a ton of research, ton of listening, everything else that goes into it, and it's a 30-minute video and there's like 1 or 2 little mispronunciations or whatever, and that's the only thing that you took away from the entire video.
You make one mistake, that's the thing that's gonna get called. That's the thing that's gonna get called out. That is.
And you see, the thing is that I hate it. I hate that
No.
bothers me. I hate that bothers me.
Well,
I hate that it's even a thing on my radar.
Well, at the same time, you know, we care about our jobs. We care
Sure.
about getting our facts straight and getting
Of
things
course.
correct.
Of
You know,
course.
I want to do things as correctly as I possibly can do them. You know, I'm a professional at the end
Right.
of the day.
But at the end of the
But-
day, also, you don't want to be a robot just spouting out facts, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
you
I don't want to sit here sounding like I'm reading a Wikipedia article, but for
Yeah.
things that require research, because I've accidentally probably burned myself so many times in the past by getting things like wrong or,
Right.
you know, not properly, you know, diving through every little piece of the backstory or whatever, you know, like something ends up being off or wrong. Because of that, I think that you slowly build up your armor over time, and you don't want to let anything get past that, because you're like, all right, well, I mispronounced this thing, or I accidentally, you know, showed this here, whatever. Another piece of armor goes on, and it gets harder to for something to break through.
And that's also another thing too. Like sometimes I know this would happen to me a lot. The thing is, when you get into this business, you usually do it because you think, hey, I know a lot about music. I follow music. I think I know enough about music to do this. I know my stuff. You know, I am the music guy of our friend group. I can handle this. And then you get into it and realize just how little you actually do know about certain scenes and about how big and vast and how, you know, even if you think you know your specific little niche, I promise you there is about 90% of it that you haven't been exposed to.
Right. It's like they always say your brain, you know, you're only actually using like a very small percentage of it, right? It's like that for anything that you get into, because there's always going to be more that you can discover or know or whatever. But it's at the end of the day, how helpful is that versus harmful is that? You know, it's like there's a line between being informed and having knowing what you're talking about and knowing maybe the backstory behind an album or whatever it is. There's a line between that and going over the verge to just insanity, to trying to like consume you have a vacuum out, basically trying to scoop up every little piece of knowledge that you can, whenever that's really just in turn turning the vacuum around and sucking the enjoyment factor out of it.
See,
like, are you even having any fun doing what you're doing?
I know that, again, I hate putting Mark on the spot again, but this is another great example. Mark, the thing is, Mark, when he puts something on the Pulse series or whatever,
A little roundup series.
his little roundup series, the roundup series that he does, the thing he will, if something gets on his request list, because he's vented to us about this when it happens, an artist who has like a big back catalog but he's never heard of their stuff, he will actually go in and listen to every single album in that back catalog.
He did that for Biffy Clyro, I know.
No. He will do that for every artist. He has to do like that. But a lot of times he'll throw stuff off the docket because
there's just too much.
Yeah, someone will request like the new freaking what's a good example?
I don't know. The Biffy Clyro one popped.
The new Accept record or whatever. Because Accept, they've been around since like literally like I think the late 70s.
So they've got a ton of records. They got
a
Big
ton of
catalog.
records, but they're also one of those bands I would say that they have the problem in that
Yeah.
they don't really change anything.
No variety. No variety.
So
Yeah.
Mark is gonna literally sit down and listen to 4 decades worth of work
To
only
talk
get
about one album.
talk about one album, and one album that's like 7 out of 10. It sure is an accept record. Like in that, like, and the thing is, for those of us, and the thing is, I wouldn't go to that extreme. I would try, if I wasn't familiar with a band, I would try to go back and try to listen to like a couple of songs here and there to kind of get an idea. But I would still, if people like just absolutely wanted to hear about it, I would try to go forth and put that review out anyway. Just try to say, hey, I would even go out of my way to say, hey, I kind of don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to this band, but
Yeah.
if you want the
I'm not-
outsiders,
yeah.
Yeah.
I like to not be afraid with that too, because sometimes it's like, I'm going to do my homework to a degree, but there's also, you have to understand that people have a jumping on point. Like, just because I just got into Gojira like 2 years ago, they've been around a while, and I'll admit, I haven't heard every album yet. I've heard some of the ones that were I've heard the ones that were like recommended to me the most highly, and I slowly have gotten into them, and I did that with like Radiohead too, like as I slowly got into them. But I think people need to realize that it's okay to do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I think most people, especially that watch us, probably do understand that. It's not,
absolutely.
we're
But
talking about the small minority.
small minority of folks really, really loudly don't, is the
Right.
thing, because like I was mentioning, again, I would go out and say, okay, this is the outsider's perspective, guys. I kind of don't know what I'm talking about, but here's my points. Here's this, and this. Here's how I felt, not knowing what I'm supposed to know about this band. And that, that wouldn't matter. It was like, oh, how could you have not heard of this? How could you have not done this? You respect the legend. How dare you disrespect the
Or
legend?
how can you talk about this if you haven't heard these other dozen records? Like, it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can't watch Doctor Strange if you haven't seen the other 80 movies.
Yeah, like I don't have time to dig into all of this.
There's what it boils down to, Crash. I'm glad you said time, because that set off something in my head where I don't know. I think in the past couple of years, I've developed this very weird relationship with time, and how like you wake up in a day and it's just like, I don't know why, but like sometimes it'll feel like the clock is already ticking down. It's winding down, and I should probably, there's always a list of like, I should probably be doing this today. And as a result, you kind of get in your own way, and I just being open and transparent about it. Like I've struggled a lot with like managing my time well, I guess.
Absolutely. See that because that is 100% me too. When I basically reached my breaking point, I was at the time where I literally just did not even have a weekend anymore. I didn't even have like time off from like my day. I work a day job in addition to doing YouTube. So it literally got to the point, particularly in the last couple of years, where I would finish my day job, then immediately I would finish from this computer over here, my day job, go to that computer over there and work on videos every single day after work. And then my weekends was every single day I was either shooting or editing or scripting or doing something. And any time I took to myself to just try to relax, like, oh my God, I've been working so hard. I want to take like 30 minutes and just like play a video game or go.
Would you beat yourself up about that time off?
I would beat myself silly for it, because it's like that deadline is ticking. Come on, Crash. You're
that
wasting...
album's only gonna have hype for so long, or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, bro, you're gonna come on, man. Oh, you're at the movies. You're literally gonna waste an hour and a half.
And I hate now that I'm very self-aware about it, and it's like, why are you doing this, John? Obviously you deserve time off, or you deserve time away, or whatever, but I think I'm glad I've become more aware of the fact that I do have this very let's say uneven relationship with time and time management and stuff like that, and allowing room to breathe versus, because I think there's a hard line between anything even remotely in the ballpark of being lazy and actually giving yourself time. you know?
Y'all, yeah,
And you're doing that right now. You're currently on hiatus for anyone who might just
uh,
be joining us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I finally reached a point where it's like, I don't know, because you trick yourself into thinking that if I rest for even a second, everything's going to die. My channel's
Yeah.
going to die. Everything is just going to die, and everything is going to fall apart, and
Yeah.
everything. I finally reached a point where it was like, you know what? It got so bad. I was like, I don't care if it dies. I don't even care if I lose every single subscriber. I am literally
Yeah.
pushing myself to the point where I will not be alive if I push myself for this
Yeah.
much farther. No nights, no nights, no weekends, no personal time to myself. No, if it were another human being outside of myself pushing me, like say it was some boss who was pushing me to work that hard, every you work from dawn to dusk, you don't sleep, you don't get
Yeah.
weekends, you don't get. If
You
it
would
was
hate
somebody
them.
else, no,
Yeah.
that motherfucker would be in jail. that
Right.
that
Exactly.
motherfucker.
Because right. Yeah.
Even in America, you can't work somebody that hard.
But you turn around and realize that you're doing it to
To
yourself.
yourself. Yeah, you have to, like, y'all. And the thing is, too, these aren't easy things to realize. I had to get into therapy before I
Same.
realized I was doing that to
I right
myself.
before COVID started was the first time that I got myself into therapy, and I had to switch
Yeah,
to obviously from in person to
outpatient.
you know, yeah, exactly,
Oh yeah.
virtual. And but there was a lot that came out there, and kind of learning about, you know, like I guess your relationship to your work and learning to
Mm.
separate and everything like that. And honestly, like I unfortunately the second half of this year I was unfortunately like not able to do therapy just because I couldn't afford it because we moved this year. There's, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of expenses that come with that and everything. But I'm looking forward to getting back to being able to do that when my new health insurance
That's,
plan starts in January. And I say
yeah.
that because I think it's very, very important and healthy to have that kind of non-biased third-party outlet that you can run these things by and talk to someone who kind of helps you understand and break down these things, that it's like we have these feelings, these fears, we work ourselves to the brink of death, and but what do we even have to show for it? Sometimes is what we feel like, right?
It can't. You'd be.
uh,
I think y'all would be. Those of you that have never had this experience, because this has been a new experience for me too. Like this has been the first time I've ever been to therapy. When I
this is
checked.
kind of a therapy session right now.
Okay, well, I mean, right now,
Yeah.
but it's so you would be amazed how helpful it can be to just talk about your situation and have somebody outside of everything just
Yeah.
analyze it and sort of show it back to you and just say,
Yeah.
hey, okay, Crash, you say you do all this, you say you work for this long and do all of this. Like, if you saw a friend going through what you're going through, would you not reach out to help them? Would you not do something to help out with it? You would
Yeah.
be amazed at how beneficial and how much perspective it can give
Right.
you. I don't.
And
That's the thing.
even
When
though
you're
you're
in,
your own boss, you can
yeah.
still do it to yourself. People, because I
Oh
don't want
yeah.
people to get it in their heads like, oh, this is like, because obviously there's terribly toxic situations that you can be in an actual workplace environment, an office
Oh yeah.
environment, whatever. But you can also be toxic to yourself and get in
Yourself.
your, you
Oh
can be your own worst enemy
no,
as a
absolutely.
result of that. And just saying some of this out loud right now, I feel like it helps me. It's cathartic to me
Yeah, absolutely.
because I watched your video, Crash, where you were having that momentary, like, just kind of
Yeah.
everything has built up and all these feelings come flying out. And that when those things happen, because they do happen to me, I get so frustrated and I'm like, why do I hate everything in this moment right now? Why does nothing feel
Yeah.
good? Why does nothing feel right? I
And
realize that I put myself in the situation because if I went back and rewound the tape for the past week of everything that led up to that moment, it's like I realize why I feel so frustrated and so full of like just anger right now, you know, or
again,
whatever.
yeah, again, that was why. Yeah, honestly, I was really up and down as to whether I should even publish that because it's hard to watch. It
Yeah.
honestly is really, even for me, it was hard to
I have
watch.
I have footage of myself like that, and it's
Yeah, no,
you hate to see it.
I think almost I think almost everyone who does this probably does, you know? Well, if you've ever been caught up in that cycle and
Yeah.
have just been absolutely smothered by it
You're
like
in the
that,
you're in the middle of an
I
hour-long shoot, a 2-hour shoot, whatever it is, and you're
no,
trying to read from your script or whatever it is, and you just keep butchering one word, and you
no,
finally just go fuck, and just
yeah.
everything is. Or a sound goes off, like your Discord was going off in the background. You know, a sound goes off and it's driving you up the wall, and it's like little things, like a car going by outside, and you're like, "Shut up!"
Yeah,
You know.
no.
But
And
it's
the
really
thing is,
not that that's the problem. It's everything that led you to that
it's
moment.
everything that led it again, it's just the end of it's the end of a fuse going off that had
It's a
been lit a
fraying rope that
long time.
finally broke,
Yeah.
and the
It,
bottom falls out.
exactly. And the thing is, I did want to explain to folks, hey, I'm going off on a little break for a little while. You know, I'm a little burnt out. I'm a little out of it. But I don't know. That's the thing. The thing is, it had gotten to the point for me where my entire schedule had started slowing down. My output for 2021 was just sluggish in comparison to
Yeah, mine
everything.
has not
So
been. Mine has not even been where I want mine to be,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel
So
guilty about that all the time. You know.
I just yeah, and I just wanted to make sure people really understood just where I was at and to just make no qualms. Okay, y'all, I this might be hard to watch, but I am in a genuinely bad place and I need to take some me time to work on getting out of that.
This is the glimpse behind the
Like
curtain.
this is the glimpse behind the curtain. This is just a peek at what has been kind of going on. This is just a small sample of the absolute madness and sheer pressure and just absolute absolute tiresome just this is like y'all even in that video y'all were probably only seeing like 5% of what was going on in throughout the entire year too. And the thing is
Yeah.
too, like even that's another thing about like YouTube and actually pursuing this kind of hustle. You can the thing is you can explain things when things come up or when you make mistakes or whenever. The thing is you can I think we've already even touched on this a little bit, but you
Yeah.
can do everything. The thing is you can do everything right. You
Yeah.
can put out the right kind of statement with the right kind of levity. You can say everything, you can do everything right when you need to give bad news or give a bad opinion or whatever.
Yeah. Give your hot
there
take. Hmm.
there will always be always be at least one, again it's a small minority 99% of the time, but there will always be that one guy. And there was this and I got comments on this like when I released my my hiatus video and showed everything there. I still got comments saying like, you lazy fuck, I'm unsubscribing, fuck you. Well,
Yeah. Like
you
you want.
barely even released anything this year, fuck you, you lazy piece of shit.
Yeah.
and, and
And it's
like the
like even though that was the one minority or the very small minority, it's like it's so vocal to the worst part of your fears. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. And it's like, God, even if the thing is, even if you're and the thing is, I feel just personally from my own perspective, like my audience has been really super cool. I am blessed to have an audience that is so understanding and
I feel that
so,
way. I feel the exact same way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Whenever I've announced
yeah,
any kind of little break or I'm taking a couple of weeks
yeah,
or
no,
something,
nine,
I think
yeah,
I think a lot of times we build it up in our heads like there's going to be so much backlash if I say this or if I say that I'm delaying this video or if I'm taking a break, we build it up in our heads like, "Oh my
yeah,
god, they're going to hate me for this." But it's like you guys are actually extremely cool and I know
yeah.
that. It's just like I
But
guess
there's
it's
again it's always a vocal minority, but just to hear that actually happen, it still gets to you. It's still
yeah.
you never I don't know, you never I guess I mean just the way our brains are hardwired. If everything's fine, well, you don't have to worry about it. The people
Sure.
who are okay with me taking my break, with me taking this hiatus, I don't have to worry about them because they're
Yeah.
fine. They're like, hey, cool, you do what you do. Hey, Crash, I just want you to be okay. That is so heartwarming and so nice to hear, but I also don't have to like worry about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the people who go off on one and actually get shitty about it, it makes me think I have to worry about this.
Right, and you get so
That's a defense
protective.
mechanism.
Yeah, you get so protective over that. You're like, oh, I wonder what people are saying, and you can like basically rake yourself over the coals of like
Yeah.
refreshing the comments and being like, did anybody
Yeah.
say anything bad? It's like you're looking, it's like your brain
Yep.
almost has been retrained to look for the
Mm.
one little problem. And it's like, even if that is there, at the end of the day, realistically, who the fuck cares?
I
But it's
mean,
like your
yeah.
head does, for whatever reason, care. And
It,
it's just, I don't know.
well, that's
It's
again,
led me
that's
down some really.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Crash. I didn't mean
No,
to talk over you.
no, you're
Um,
fine. I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
all I was gonna say is that it's led me to a point of realizing, like, hey, like if certain things are not working, not just because like maybe they even are doing well realistically in terms of like views, or people seem to really be like responding positively in comments and like enjoying it in that way or whatever, but it's like at the end of the day I've realized, hey, if this isn't working for me in terms of mentally, like preparation, the time that I'm spending putting into this or researching whatever, like I recently just pulled the plug on the album awards, doing it quarterly. Like I'm no
Oh yeah.
longer, I'm still going to have like a mid-year ceremony, kind of like what Mark does with his mid-year lists and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like that. Like I'm still going to do something because I really do like and love the idea, but there's a difference between loving an idea and actually having the ability to pull it off, because we over here at ARTV, Beyond ARTV, all that stuff, it's a two-person crew. It's me and Hannah doing everything, and this is my full-time job. That's all there is to it. It's about making things. Somebody in the comments pointed out a good thing. It's like Jimmy Shoes TV said, what percent of content is stuff that you want to create and stuff that you feel obligated that you have to create? What a good
Yeah.
question. What a very
Great
good question.
question. Like, see, the thing for me is that balance got way out of whack in
Same.
2020.
And
Just
album
way out of whack.
awards was like originally something, it's always been something that I wanted to do. It's the idea of it, but the terms of the stuff that I felt so pressured, like I have to talk about this and I have to have the right opinion, that threw the balance out of whack to the point where
Yeah.
I would say at its worst, maybe not even this year, but even in the past, I'd say that balance had gotten to places of like 85-15, where stuff
Oh
that I
yeah.
felt obligated to make versus what I was actually making. And fortunately, I feel like I've pulled it back in a little bit. But readjusting things like that roundup series, and making things that make me feel more satisfied and happy as a creator,
Mm.
that's exactly why I'm trying to rebalance that
See,
to a point where I feel like I'm in more control.
absolutely. And honestly, it's same song and dance for me too, because again, like Fimi had become exactly that. It had become everything that, oh, I have to track this, and oh, I have to do this, and oh, I have to talk about this, and I'm not looking forward to talking about this, and I don't even want to talk about this, but I have to talk about this. I have to, I have to, I have to, I have to. Again, it's the I have to things. And that's why I had to just separate from everything for a while. That's what I've been doing during
Yeah.
my time away, just reevaluating, what do I want to do, because
Give
my
yourself
channel
some
has been,
distance, the ability
yeah,
to see it through fresh eyes. Not when
yeah,
when you're in it, you can't really see, the forest for the tree, but like,
yeah. And I have to get back again, I have to get back to doing the things I want to do, because the
yeah,
have to's are like, it was just swallowing me whole. And again,
yeah,
and again, when the thing that started out as your hobby, I fell so into Rock Critic and YouTube and everything else. I fell into it because I just loved it. I just
yeah,
loved it, and I would make those long videos, even though they were a lot of work. It never felt like a chore, or it never even really felt like work, because at the end of the
yeah.
day, making that stuff
You
and
were proud
seeing
of that
those
final
reactions,
product.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was literally one of the most satisfying and fulfilling experiences I have ever
Absolutely.
had.
And
And
when
the
you actually start getting, growth because of something that you are doing that you like. I
yeah,
mean, I think
no,
2016 was like probably, I always think back and I'm like, that was probably like my best year, because both of my channels were starting to like grow and I was realizing, hey, I could make something out of this. And
oh
also,
yeah,
there was a certain naivety to that time period that I really do miss, because I didn't have a certain sense of cynicism and other stuff
yeah,
that I feel like I do
uh,
have, unfortunately, in
don't
droves now. And it's
don't you
like, yeah, the things that I was putting out sometimes, it was just me turning on the camera and talking for 15 minutes about something that I either felt very strongly about one way or the other, maybe something I really loved, and just not really saying like, now we put up all these guards. It's like, all right, how long should this video be? Should it be exactly like this? Like, do I have the best possible thumbnail? Like, whatever else, all of these things,
Yeah.
because you're thinking, how is it going to do in the algorithm? But back then, I feel like I was just throwing stuff at the wall and see what would land. And I
Yeah.
would like to be able to get back to feeling more confident to be able to do stuff like that again, even if it's only on my Beyond ARTV side channel and I'm doing more loose, fun stuff like that. I think those are the type of things that allow us to get back to that proper balance of like stuff that we want to make versus obligated. And obligated isn't always a bad thing. Like,
No, not
obviously,
at
like
all.
if Green
Yeah.
Day drop a new album, you know me, I'm going to talk about it. And it's an
Hey.
obligation, but it's also something that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So it can be the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But the passion, it can be obligated, but you're passionate to talk about it anyway. So yeah, okay, sure. I want it, you want it, here it is. It's when for me again, for me though, I've always approached this because this has never been my full-time job. So I've always tried to approach this as more, I don't, it's one of the reasons why I never picked a big focus, or I never focused ultra hard on my numbers and my engagement, because I don't want to do this necessarily for a full-time job. I have fun doing it, but I've seen some of the stuff. I've seen some of the stuff like guys like you have gone through, and I've seen.
And even I know Luke has gone full time now, and
Yep.
I'm sure that he feels a very similar pressure to what I would
Oh
describe.
yeah.
And it's the pressure of you think your channel's going to die at all times, like all of these other mostly irrational fears, or else like I don't know. But at the end of the day,
it's
like
a lot. It's a big thing that has to hang over your head.
It is, and you can end up being your own worst enemy in those situations if you sit around. Like for me, when I first went full time in 2018, mid 2018, I started finding myself sitting around staring at analytics, staring at where people were watching and discovering my videos, and feeling like all of these things. And I got to a point where I was like, I have to stop. I have to stop this right now. And there's certain things that I still to this day don't let myself look at, but once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I'm starting to get better about that myself, because again, you can
If
find
you look
yourself,
for a problem hard enough, you'll find it.
you'll find it. You will absolutely find it. That is the perfect analogy. If you look for a problem, or if you even give yourself a little reason to be paranoid about something, you can. You can, if you let yourself want to be driven crazy by your numbers or your negative feedback or whatever, like, you absolutely can. It won't be long before that trouble finds you.
I had a creator who I won't name from our music community, and this was a couple of years ago, but they came to me and basically were just saying that they were having like breakdowns like every week over like looking at their analytics and like asking how I dealt with it and other stuff like that. And it's just like, you feel terrified for that individual, because it's like, I know that I've been at that point, and I know that we've all been at that point where we're so focused on that, where we can't see what's around us because we're so focused on trying to make something prime. And there's nothing wrong with trying to make something as appealing as it possibly can if you're going to put in the work. But once you put something out, you kind of have to realize that it's out of your court at that point. It's up to YouTube, it's up to the audience, how they end up enjoying it, receiving it, whatever, whether it gets that blessing from the algorithm gods or whether it doesn't. The main thing should be, were you proud of what you put out?
At the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what I've found is the most rewarding thing possible. Is that if you can walk away, like, even if it's not pulling the biggest numbers ever. There's videos that I put out this year that I'm super proud of that will never do the numbers of something just like me hopping on camera and talking about the Limp Bizkit album. That got more hits than something that I spent a month on. Fine. But guess what? It's stuff like that can do well and perform those big numbers, so that I can make the smaller stuff that I feel more passionate about, like my Fiona Apple ranked. I felt so like I was so invested in that. I got to dive through her discography again and fall in love with some of those records again, and stuff like that is more rewarding, and it takes longer, but you just have to accept at the end of the day that certain things are going to do better than others, and that it's kind of out of your control, and sometimes you'll get surprised by what ends up taking off. Like
absolutely.
you had the what was that? How to Get Into Tool that really popped off.
Oh yeah, like that was Absolutely crazy. Did release that album. I did release that retrospective around when Fear Inoculum was coming out. So again, there was some convenient timing behind it. But even then,
Sure.
I'm just a big Tool fan. I just wanted to
Sure.
talk about Tool. This was a perfect excuse to talk about Tool. That was a great example of obligation kind of meeting with my own personal desire. And again,
Exactly.
just
And that's why we
seeing,
got into this in the first place. Of what we do is
yeah,
because we do have the desire and the passion for music. It's just that sometimes the obligation part of it can get stapled onto you as you collect
yeah.
and talk about all of these artists over the years. I've probably in some capacity reviewed, like, even if it's just like a track review, a brief
Oh yeah,
mention and a thing, I probably reviewed like thousands of artists. And
man.
each time
Yeah.
you staple a new one on, that's another artist that you've got to keep up with their new releases.
Yeah, no, that's again, it's why I always dread. Sometimes I dread reviewing a new artist sometimes because it'll be like, because I reviewed their album once, or especially if I happen to like or even potentially dislike their record, that means the next time they do anything, I'm gonna have to, oh, where's this? You talked about this. Don't you want to talk about this? And
Yeah.
um, I don't know, guys. Like, bands can, I don't know, like topics and artists that you cover can follow you around even when you don't mean to. It can just trace you down and hunt you down for. And
Yeah.
again, that's another thing you just got to add onto the pile. It's like just another thing you got to stay cognizant of. And it can, especially like you say, how many artists, that would be a fun TV tropes exercise or something for some. I'm sure someone has probably done it for some of us. Like, oh,
Yeah.
here's every single artist that everyone is. I'm sure those numbers. Oh, for you, you've been doing this so long,
I
and
don't even
you've
want
been
to
so,
know how
yeah. Oh my
scarily
god.
high.
Oh,
Oh,
I bet it's pretty big for me too. Like,
I
oh my goodness.
just from I started. Let's see. Let's scroll. Let's go. Let me open my. Do you use Last FM Crash, like to scrabble
Uh,
your Spotify stats or anything like
not.
that?
I used to, but not anymore. Say I
I
quit using it a couple years back.
See, I didn't even start using it at all until 2018. The December 2018, it says, is when I made my account.
Mm.
Already, in that slightly less than 3 year period, I have scrabbled 2,172 unique artists in that time.
How long is that? Is that like a year?
No, that's less than 3 years. It's
Less
it's
than
from
three
it's
years.
since December of 2018.
Oh, so
2172.
multiply that by at least like three. At
Yeah.
least like three.
That's yeah, and
Oh,
I couldn't even most of and it sucks because at a certain point it has to interfere with the fact that it's like I can't remember all of this. You
yeah.
know? I can't
No.
possibly. I have a shelf full of records over here that I feel like I don't even allow myself enough time to get back to the stuff that I loved from
Yeah.
last year
See,
because I'm so focused on this year.
that's another thing I've been doing because it got to the point where I was listening to music as work so
Yes.
often that I never took the time to just. I was at that point where I was literally buying records just because I would buy records and never listen to them.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's terrifying.
I
It's like
yeah,
what am I doing?
that's one of the dangers when you get into like niche sort of YouTube-dom like we've done because you get into it thinking it's a hobby, and it is.
Mhm.
You get into it as a hobby, but then that hobby can become your job, and when
Yes.
something becomes your job, there's a whole different set of obligations behind it. There's a whole different set, and man, if that was like for me, it's something I've been wrestling with because again, music used to be like my world. I was Mr. Music Man. I adored music.
Yeah.
And I finally got to the point where it was like, this thing that's supposed to be my hobby tortures me every single day. And I don't even know what I like anymore. I don't even know what I enjoy anymore. Who
That's
am
such
I
a good point
without the
because
music?
you'll be listening to something and it's like I can't even tell if I think this is good or bad because like
Yeah.
I've heard so many things this week. I'm just inundated. I don't even I guess it's
Yeah.
fine. I guess it's good. I guess it's
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
general consensus? Sure.
Yeah, it's like yeah, and when you listen to so much music, again you just get again when it's built on like taste and on what you've on your enjoyment of things. Well, there are a lot of things, if you burn yourself out listening to so much music where it's not even the fact. It's not even whether the album's good or not affecting your opinion. It's I'm so tired by everything else going on in my life. I can't. I don't have the energy to have an opinion on the. I don't have anything to give to this record.
Yeah, I have nothing to
Seven out
add
of
to the discussion. Yeah.
7 out of 10. Will you leave me alone?
That's why I was,
No.
this week, a good example this week, Adele dropped the biggest album in,
Yep.
years,
Oh,
arguably. I was going to try and have a review out today, but I was like, John, think about your week that led up to this. Think about
yeah,
everything that you
yeah,
have done this week, even that, people don't see, things that people do see.
yeah.
We did the Rock Coliseum this week. We're doing this stream today, which I knew I had scheduled. And I had finished up an episode of 7 on Sunday that's coming out tomorrow. And I'm like, the review's not going to come out today. It's just not. I have to make that decision because it's like, one, I need more time because right now, some of the things, it's like, I can't even tell, like, if this is just because I'm tired right now or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, I'm going to wait until like Monday or Tuesday because I need a little bit of time. And these are the things that I think are so healthy for us to both be giving ourselves that space to be able to do that, to be able to say, right now, you're taking a hiatus. Right now, I'm making decisions that, benefit how I can be, productive and stuff, especially with year-end list season just around the corner. I'm super excited about that. I actually do, for the first time in a while, because I've let some things off of my plate, like the Album Awards obligation, that I was
Yeah.
feeling every quarter, like I owed that. It's like now that I know that I'm not doing a quarter four one, that I can just focus on the task at hand.
See,
And that's when the enjoyment comes back into the factor.
yeah, and again, that's not fair to the people either. That's not again. It's why I basically one thing that I'm eventually going to do with my channel is again I consider this an official sort of announcement, I guess, but I've already been hinting at this for a while now. One thing that's going to go with my channel, I'm just going to kind of stop doing new releases, just almost entirely. I'll talk about a new release if I have something to say. Basically, is how I'm going to handle things in the future.
Yeah,
But
if you
like
feel like
the
you've got
hustle,
if you've got your
yeah,
meter is filling up and you're like, oh my god, I'm overflowing with things to say.
yeah. If I have something I can say about a record, I don't mind talking about it. But the absolute hustle of keeping up, I'm going to back away from that again because I. I will listen to all these albums and I will burn myself out on them and they'll all just blend together. And again, that's not. And again, I will let stuff that isn't actually a good example of this, and I'll probably cover this in my end of the year videos. That new Kings of Leon record.
Oh
Did,
yeah,
did
yeah,
you even?
just
A
kind of,
did
it's a very white walled experience.
yeah. I mean, how many of y'all even remembered that Kings of Leon released
I,
a record this
honestly,
year?
Crash, I liked a few songs off of the record, but I was looking. Somebody talked to me about it the other day, and they were like, I said, oh, their 2020 album. I thought it came out like that long ago.
Yeah. No,
Because
it's no,
I
but I
haven't
get
come
it.
back
I
to it. I
get
have not really, outside of like maybe 2 songs. I haven't come back to it. I
it.
just
Yeah,
haven't.
no, it's
I thought it came out in March of 2020, not March 2021.
yeah. See, well, the thing is though, it just kind of is what it is. It's very whatever. It's
Yeah,
some people like it. A lot of people just say whatever, whatever. It's a very whatever feeling album. I feel like at least.
yeah.
But I remember in my Femi review, I got so absolutely pissed because I was just like, this is so boring, and how dare you be this boring, and oh my god, I'm so do so. Honestly, in that review in particular, looking back on it, I realized that was more the burnout talking.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't. I mean, I wasn't even upset because it was so boring. I was upset because it was like you didn't give me anything to talk about, and I
right.
need things to talk about.
And that was probably the fifth record in a row
The
that gave you
fifth
nothing to
record
talk
in a row
about.
that gave me nothing to talk about, and like
Yeah.
again, and
You're
again,
not mad
that-
so much at Kings of Leon's existence here. It's the fact
yeah,
that
no,
if
but
we're coming across sometimes as like kind of aggro or whatever, it can be sometimes that burnout talking,
yeah,
like you were
yeah,
saying.
see, yeah, and again, that was more the burnout. That was more my emotional state, just
Yeah.
getting pollinated into things where it obviously where it honestly shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have let those things show up in the work itself. And it actually was getting to that point, and I just it's one of those things. you have to remember despite all of your obligations and all your deadlines and all your responsibilities, that you do want to keep up for people, because you want to give, like we said, 99% of our audiences are fan fucking tastic, and we want to give good stuff to you because we appreciate
Absolutely.
you. But at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, you have to remember you're a human being too,
Yeah.
and you have your limits, you have your needs, you have your boundaries, and you have your things that you just can't do, or you have your lines that you just can't cross. You have some of those goals that you just won't be able to reach
Yeah,
sometimes.
there's a
And you
lot of things that I felt like I have all of these videos and ideas that it's like I want to do, and I have things that I want to make, but I keep getting in my own way by basically I feel like I've unofficially signed these waivers for things that I'm like, "Oh, I'm obligated to that, so I won't have
Mhm.
time to do this video essay I want to do or whatever
Yeah.
it might be." It's like that's what I'm even more now like fully realizing that in order to get to certain goals that I want to get, I have to actually take the steps to and also put myself out there and be open to the audience and say like, hey, this is something that I'm changing. I'm kind of backing away from this a little bit more in order to focus on bigger things that I do feel more passionate about, that I know that you guys are interested in too. And if I
Yeah.
could, really quick, I was wanting to make an announcement during this stream
Oh,
that I will probably officially do later on in like a update video or something. But Crash, I don't even know if I've told you about this officially, but
oh, am I in on the loop here too? How exciting!
maybe I don't know if I can't remember if I've told you or not. But this
Okay.
next year, the channel ARTV will be going into its 13th year on YouTube, which is insane to think about.
Yeah.
And as I've kind of wrestled with the whole new release thing, like you have,
Ugh.
I'm not backing away entirely, but I am doing something that I think is going to be beneficial for me. So next year is going to be on ARTV, the main channel with like reviews and stuff. I'm going to be doing something that's called 30 going on 13. I'm turning 30 years old at the tail end of this year. The channel will be going on 13 years old, so it's a whole 13 going on 30. We're flipping it around.
Yeah.
I'm only going to be reviewing 30 albums next year.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm only going to be reviewing
Oh.
30 albums in a dedicated video. That doesn't.
Yeah.
I have a number for myself outside of that I'm not going to reveal publicly for how many albums. I'm capping the number of albums that I actually hear in
Mm.
the year, and I'm also putting this figure out publicly that I'm only going to be reviewing 30 albums next year. And the only exception to that is an artist like, I know Jack White has already announced that he's putting out 2 albums next year. I'm going to count that as like 1 since they're putting out 2. But whatever. Main point, 30 dedicated reviews. The channel's going into its 13th year. I need to try something different in order to allow myself to be able to focus on, just a little bit of everything. I have video essays that have been sitting on the back burner that I feel really strongly about wanting to make. I have other types of content that I want to explore, like more commentary stuff. I've been wanting to roast these like terrible guitar ads by those Simply Guitar ads. I don't know if you've seen those at all on YouTube. Like I've wanted to do a video about that for a while. And
Mm.
these things that I often feel like I can't get to because I'm like, oh, well, I need to see what new releases are coming out this week every single time and only focus on that. And as a
Yeah.
result, I don't get to the things that I want to. So it's just going to be a little bit different. And this year, if you look at the playlist this year, I've kind of quietly backed away from doing as many reviews as I've done in the past, because in a year before, I looked at this recently and I couldn't believe that I actually did this in the past. 2015 and 2016, Crash, I reviewed more than 140 albums both of those years.
Oh, oh man.
In like we're
And
talking like dedicated videos.
it's like full reviews, not just like
Yeah.
quick little. And we wonder why we're so burnt out. We sit here and we wonder, wow, how did I get so tired of the work?
I have no idea. I
No
can't
idea,
believe it.
right? How on earth could that have happened?
How could
Oh.
we have gotten here? And this year, believe it or not, this figure does include, because I put the album awards in the same playlist, but including the album awards, or I guess not including the album awards, I should say, I've actually only done 45 reviews this year, which is lower than usual for me, and it'll
Yeah.
probably top out around 50 by the end of the year. So Next year, that's just going to be siphoned a little bit lower.
Yeah.
30 going on 13.
Hey.
That's the plan.
You know what? I'm happy for you. I'm happy
Thank you.
for you.
It feels good to be able to say that.
Right. You know, it's nice to be able to say, "Oh, hey, I'm." You know, it's like, "Oh, hey, I'm happy you're taking care of yourself, and you're
Yeah.
actually gonna tackle subjects that give you." And I feel like the rest of our audience, the audience that isn't that shouty 1%, is
Yeah.
probably with us on this. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm glad you're doing the stuff you want to do. That's when I announced my hiatus and I sort of hinted at some of the stuff I wanted to do with the channel moving forward. Honestly, the amount of feedback saying, "Good, Crash, I want you to do stuff that you are passionate about because that is when you are at your best." And that's what I'm here to see. I'm not here for volumes. I'm not here to simp or stand my favorite little creator or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
here because I want you to, because I like the vibe you put out, and I want you to be happy doing the thing you do.
And
And
if we
that's
want this
like,
to be a thing in the future still, then let's make sure that it's maintainable, you know?
yeah, exactly. And that's again, the audience that's worth hanging on to, in my opinion, is the audience that will understand that.
Absolutely.
It's
And I think most will, especially whenever I
yeah.
know that people see and like it feels so good because I put out a couple of videos recently for like as a part of like my SOS 7 on Sunday series that I feel very, very proud of because I've spent extra time on them
Mhm.
and even the video I did last week where I talked about title tracks that feel like a great representation of the album, it allows me to actually have the time to go back and listen to these full album experiences and think outside of the box for artists that I might not always talk about. And it opens me to older and new music because I think it's important to be able to go back to older stuff as well as new stuff. And if you don't give yourself
Yeah.
enough time to do that, then you can just feel exhausted if you're just stuck in the the new
Yeah.
release hype lane, you
I-
know?
I-
Take
yeah.
take the exit from time to time. It's okay to
Yeah.
do that for yourself. Veer off of
Exactly.
the musical highway and give yourself an out, you know?
Get,
And that's
get,
what I guess that's kind of what I'm doing next year, and I'm excited about it. I really am because it's going to open a lot of doors to just one, have less pressure, but two, the fact that I'm not even going to say like my opinion on everything that I hear, it's going to be a way for me to learn how to filter certain things. And I'm also
yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
maybe I'm just going to check out the singles, maybe I just want to hear some of the singles from
Yeah.
the album, and that's okay
Yeah.
because I know that I've
Yeah.
kind of built up my brand on being somebody who reviews albums, but it's like sometimes you just want to check out a few of the songs from it, and maybe I'll check out the full album someday, but it doesn't have to be right this moment, right now.
Yeah, sometimes maybe I just want to vibe out on the songs I like, and I don't know. Again, those of you guys that don't have to make this your job, you can listen. You're a typical listener can just like listen to the new whatever and be like, I only like 5 or 6. I only like 1 or 2 songs off of this, so I pull it out for that. I don't have to have much. I don't have to have many thoughts about this record or whatever. It's fine. I feel like it'll be nice to be able to do that again, to just have a healthy relationship with music itself, because most
That is
of
a great
y'all,
way. That's a
yeah,
good way of putting it. I had
most
to have a healthy relationship with the thing that we're here for in the first place.
bingo, because most people don't listen to it in that sort of, oh, I have to
Think
crunch
about
on
it
it, and
critically.
I have to give a college thesis. I have to
I
know
have to
every
find a
single.
problem with this. I have to find something I love about this. Not well,
Yeah.
that comes easier.
I,
But I think it's more so on the side of I need to find something that's possibly wrong with this. What am I going to
or
criticize, or what am I going to point out as
uh,
the
yeah,
negative aspects of it?
every single record I listen to, I have to have a very, at least somewhat well fleshed out opinion on what it is. And most people who listen to music, even people who love music and music is their life and their passion, even they aren't like that with
Yeah.
every single record they put out. It's like,
Mm-mm.
what they like. They like the 10 or 20 records that were that good to them that year, and they don't have to worry about it. And
Right.
it's
And that's what I realize that more and more as I see comments of people who are like, I've only actually heard, 15 albums this year. And it's like, it puts it into perspective for you. And I think I learned that too because, YouTube has this new poll feature for like premieres and live streams now. I was putting up a poll when I premiered the album awards. And 9 times out of 10, for the record, every record that I put up there, the majority of the audience that was winning the poll every time haven't heard it. So most people haven't even heard all of these albums, either that they're requesting or that they're like, here to check out. And it's like, that just shows me that it's like, okay, damn. It's like, I really can be more selective about this.
See, really, something I've learned in therapy is, for my own personal struggles at least, 9 times out of 10, the only person who's beating themselves to death about something is me.
Yeah.
And,
same.
That's something we've both.
Yeah, my therapist was kind of like, but who's telling you to do that, or who's telling you to feel that way? And it's like, I'm telling me to feel that way, or I'm telling me that they'll hate that, or I'm telling myself that all of these things.
Yeah, and then the light bulb goes on. It's like, oh, yeah, I should do that to myself. No wonder.
And right now, I honestly, I have to say, I feel good where we are, just being able to have had this conversation of things that I think all the time but never say. And I think that's why I can come across like maybe like more isolated, or more like I'm holding something back, or maybe I'm not like fully happy with like whatever, like when people have told me before, it's like, oh, I feel like you're only covering that because you had to. It's like, if you've sensed that I've felt that way, it's true, and I'm sorry that I let it get to that point, but it's now me being able to open up and I guess talk about it publicly of what I have felt.
And I mean too, it's also one of those things. I'm glad, because originally the original idea for this sort of get together was going to be just like a video where we just toppled it. But again, we decided maybe something like this would be better as a live stream, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot we can talk about. On this.
And it's like, imagine how long that video would have been.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you would have made a Crash Thompson length video, and I would not recommend anybody do that. I honestly
we would have had to work some skits in there.
Yeah.
Well, I think Crash, I think this is a good time that we should open it up to the chat.
Take some questions.
Yeah, just to round up some questions, just if anybody has any I guess responses to the stuff that we've talked about here, but also any questions about like our process, or like how we listen to music, our relationship with it, because we've talked about certain things like that, feeling like we want to get it back into better standing. But really, just anything related to this that you guys are curious on. I know there's a little bit of delay between the stream and the chat. That's why I'm dragging it out
sentence. So trying to beef out
so that it catches up.
No, I know all
Crash,
about that.
If you've got the chat up there, Crash. Thank you to everybody who sent. I've seen some super stickers come through. Tyler, Mr. Drown, Philip Bowman, and Rocked Luke just sent one.
Luke, how's it going, Luke? Thank you so much.
But yeah, we'll Crash, I'll let you pick out, if you see something that pops up in the chat, I'll let you field a question first, and we'll just kind of go back and forth for a bit before we wrap things up.
I don't have a question in the chat yet, but one thing I did want to point out, because I saw this pass through earlier from Stefan Fortig. Again, apologies if I'm absolutely butchering that. He makes up a good content. YouTubers have a life outside of YouTube, and people need to understand that. And like. And again, that was another big issue with me too. My life outside of YouTube also became like, John, I've already shared that with you privately. Yeah. But like, y'all, again, like I say, YouTube is my side gig. So I have a life, a job, a whole other person almost that I am outside of Crash Thompson. Yeah. And that was also in a very chaotic place. So add all of that ball of chaos on top of YouTube's ball of chaos, and that's a pretty big ball of chaos.
Yeah, and it's going to eventually implode, because chaos isn't sustainable forever. And one thing I wanted to bring up I don't know why that reminded me of that I wanted to say that I didn't say earlier. The constant comparing that you'll do to yourself and other creators and other channels on YouTube is it can get to the point where I'm sure for both of us, we've experienced this at some point. It can be very, very harmful if you start lining yourself and comparing, like, oh, well, if they're pulling this kind of numbers, or if they're uploading 5 times a week, why can't I should be able to do that. But not everybody is wired the same. And also a lot of times, sometimes we don't see that maybe those people are struggling with something too. And that's the way
Yeah.
that, like, maybe uploading a lot or making videos is a more of a form of escapism for me, and it's more beneficial for them than it would be for me if I was trying to make 5 videos a week,
Yeah,
you know?
see, and
Mm,
it goes into this whole conversation of the parasocial relationship
sure.
between artist and between creator and fan or enjoyer of the content, and realizing that you're seeing a very, even if it is a content creator that does tend to be very open and share a lot about themselves, you're still only seeing a small
A
window onto
fraction.
what is
Yeah.
going on in that person and who they are. Just outside of that, it's just by the very nature of what it is, you can't really see everything that's going on with it. You can't really see everything that's going on with your family and your friends and people intimately. So
Yeah.
imagine the extra walls that come up when it's some doofus on YouTube who does a silly Weezer voice. Actually, there was one question here I did
Sure.
want to throw out here. It's for me, but I did want to field this because
Yeah.
this kind of builds into what I'm planning to do with my channel in the future.
Okay.
From Ethereal Doom, do you plan on starting up any like Game and Crash content in the future? I've been missing that stuff lately. See, again with my channel, I'm gonna focus more. I'm gonna get back to focusing on stuff I enjoy talking about and stuff I just want to talk about because I want to talk about it. And yeah, no, I am totally gonna do some more gaming content. I'm gonna do some more. I've actually toyed with the idea of maybe reviving Game and Crash. The channel does still exist, and I
Yeah.
still have everything ready to go. So that would be maybe something I've kind of experimented with. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna do some more stuff related to gaming, and other stuff like film and TV shows. I've always wanted to make that "How to Get into the Simpsons" video.
Yeah, that would be great. And that's
Yeah,
just opening a floodgate of other things that we like.
yeah,
Just allowing ourselves to be in that place. And it's like for me, like, I converted one of my channels into something that I want to use as more of like if I've got thoughts on movies, TV shows, whatever,
yeah.
because I need a space where I can talk about other stuff. But I also, I want to run it in a way where it doesn't feel like I run it to the same place that I did with like ARTV or Beyond ARTV, where I feel like an incessant pressure to upload a certain amount of videos. That might be sporadic. It might not have a schedule, but I think sometimes have to accept that not sometimes they're not going to go according to exactly like whatever a preconceived notion of a plan might be.
Oh, absolutely. But
All right,
but yeah.
we got a little super chat here from Philip Bowman with a
Oh, we do.
question.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Are there any artists and bands that viewers want you to check out but you aren't interested in? Speaking for me personally, all the time. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
it's not even so much just not interested in. It's maybe more of a I just can't. I don't have time. Like Luke said something earlier in the chat, and he's like, I get probably 200 PR emails a week or whatever from like people
Yes.
labels sending.
Oh.
My
Oh
inbox
my
is
god.
always getting deleted. I'm grateful for the new update on the new iOS because you can field your notifications and to only like come through at certain times for
Oh
like,
yeah.
different apps. I have
Mhm.
my email app set to only notify me like 3 times a day now because it would be like you're sitting there trying to get something done. Your phone's buzzing every 2 minutes like, oh, here's an email for immediate release. Please, are you interested in doing a reaction video to this
Yeah.
Canadian folk singer that no one's ever heard of? No, I know I'm actually not.
I think I got that same email.
Yeah, I'm
I'm in. I
telling
don't
you.
know. I'm in a lot of those same groups too.
Yeah, you
Get
get
I get
attached to
those
them and you
emails
can't get
too.
yourself out.
Yeah. Oh, it's like so many.
So
Yeah.
I think sometimes it just gets to a point where it becomes background noise. It's not even like, oh wow, I'm so annoyed that viewers are wanting me to check this out, but I'm just not interested in. It might be a lack of interest, or it might just be a genuine lack of like time. You know what I mean?
Time. Yeah, for me sometimes it'll be like a lack of knowledge about an artist too, because again,
Yeah,
I would hate to tackle an artist that I know nothing about and just kind of butcher everything because I'm Mr. Thicky Dum Dum who doesn't realize. Like a good example of that for me, people have wanted me to say something about Steven Wilson and
yeah,
Porcupine Tree. Again,
yeah,
big deal artists in like the prog scene
yeah,
and everything. But I'm that one weirdo who's into like proggier stuff, but just never got around to his work.
yeah.
I know that makes me like a fucking like a fucking hen's tooth of a person.
It
But
makes you a normal human being,
I
you know?
yes,
Like
you know,
there's so
yeah.
many bands. There's
There's
so many bands in
yeah,
existence.
again, there's so much stuff out there that yes, it is completely possible to be into something and miss out on it. It's not
Right.
weird. It's just being human,
Right.
But again, that's a great example of an artist who like I haven't had the time to sit down with this, and I never got into it when it was big, when it was going
And these are
around.
long albums. We're talking about
Oh yeah,
prog here, you know?
yeah. Oh
These
yeah.
are hour plus investments for each one, and there's how many?
Yeah.
But yeah,
So yeah.
I s-
Anytime. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say there was a good question that I
Oh
saw
yeah.
relating to kind of mental health on that page and stuff.
Oh okay.
Mr. Drown asked if it's not too personal. How did you guys get to the point where you started wanting to think about therapy, getting into therapy, taking the first steps,
Ooh.
and
Um,
figuring out the finances surrounding it and stuff like that?
yeah.
What was your journey like that led you there? If you're comfortable
Um,
talking about it,
I can talk about this. I will throw up a bit of a trigger warning though, because
sure.
some it can get a little my story can get a little graphic in places, just in
Yeah.
relation to this.
Mental
Again,
health discussions for the next few minutes, guys.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, 2021 was just like I already mentioned, a chaos of a year. YouTube, things were chaotic. Personal life, I had started a new day job, and things were really, really chaotic. That was piling up on top of everything, and like I literally had reached the point where and this is something I've discussed on my channel before. This is something I've been frank about in places, but I have again, I deal with anxiety. I've dealt with very chronic anxiety throughout pretty much my entire life, and I have dealt with suicide in my personal journey. I've attempted suicide twice in my life. Thank goodness both of those attempts failed.
Yeah, thank God
But
you're still here. Thank
yeah,
goodness you're still here.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
But again, it's something that it is that I it is one of those things where I can I realized again as things were starting to just really really heat up and really really boil as I was getting grounded down. I started getting to the point where I was genuinely having those suicidal thoughts again.
Yeah,
I was
like creeping into your
genuinely
head regularly. Yeah.
yeah, I was literally just having those self-destructive impulses just come back in a big, ugly way that I had not seen since my last attempt, frankly. And it was getting to the point where it was I very much real was able to realize what was going on, and I saw the downward spiral I was walking towards, and I finally just I don't know. Again, it got to the point where when I was working on that my last proper video, the how to get into bad religion,
Yeah.
I hit a wall where I almost didn't like I mentioned I almost did not finish that video because again I literally got to a point where I started making plans. That was how bad it got. I started like literally saying, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to take care of if I even want to do this anymore. I passed the video off to a mutual friend of ours
Yeah,
who
for like editing and stuff
yeah,
like that.
like, can
Yeah.
you I literally got to I cannot finish this. I literally cannot sit down long enough to work on this video. Can you edit this for me? And I finally just got to that absolute breaking point and I realized I'm not going to survive if I keep doing this. And you know what? No matter what people want out of me, no matter what artist they want to hear, or no matter what thoughts on they want to hear out of me, nothing is worth my own life. Nothing
Of
is
course
worth
not. Of
that.
course not. Nothing is worth that, or even
Yeah.
just living in a state of something that might drive you for those things to come back into your mind.
Yeah,
Nothing is
exactly.
worth that kind of stress and
No.
anxiety and
And
depression and
and
whatever else comes down that road. And were
yeah.
you at this time you it was this year, if I'm not
It was
mistaken,
this year.
that you started therapy this year.
Yes, I
Yeah,
started therapy
yeah.
this year. Basically, it was almost the minute I started realizing I was having those thoughts again. I was like, okay,
But that's
I
that
cannot do this on my own anymore. I
right, and
can.
that's an incredible that you were able to get to that point of knowing your limits and also knowing that it wasn't just something that you could handle that moment in your own, and that it wasn't like, oh, I'm just feeling down, or oh, I just need to adjust this slightly. It's like, no, I need to
Yeah,
get a professional involved, somebody who
yeah.
can help me in regards to my mental health and rebuilding certain things that I've knocked down over time and I didn't even realize.
I will not lie. It is so hard. It is very hard, and that's not that can be one of the most difficult things you ever. I can say it's probably one of the more difficult things I've ever accomplished. And I've quit smoking, and I've gotten a tattoo on like
Yeah,
one of the most sensitive places on my body. So like
yeah,
it's hard to actually be able to step away from yourself and realize, okay, I not only realize that I need help, but to actually follow through and take those steps and follow the journey to, figure it out. Because especially if you live in America,
yeah.
it's a fucking hard job to figure out, okay, what does my insurance cover? What
Cover
does this cost? What can I,
that's I got
what
screwed
is
by
therapy
mine
even
last
going to
year.
look like?
I
Oh,
got completely
really?
screwed by my insurance. They originally said that they took it, and then I ended up getting a bill for like $2,000,
Oh,
and
oh,
that's why I'm unfortunately not in therapy right now, because I just a couple of months ago finally got that backlog paid off, and to the point where it's
yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna pick a new plan and actually get something that where I can do this and it's not a problem, and I'm not
Yeah.
worrying every single second about how much
Mm.
money I owe. But what I guess also to the second part of that question that was asked, what would you say to somebody who is right now just for the first time trying to get help, and maybe it's not the most accessible thing, because of finances, or
Yeah.
because depending on what country they're in, maybe it's not as easy. Not that it's super easy here, but still.
Yeah, I would say the thing is, just don't give up. Just keep digging, keep looking. I actually, like, again, money is a situation for me too. I understand that, and
Yeah,
therapy is often expensive, but
yeah,
look around, look to see what's out there. Don't be afraid to dig. Don't be afraid to like send emails or make phone calls
sure,
and
yeah.
just you know what, tell people, hey, I've never done this, or hey, I don't know what I'm doing, can you give me a little bit of information? Don't be afraid to look stupid while you're asking these questions, because you're not stupid for not knowing this stuff. It's
No,
complicated, and it's purposefully not made easy, again,
yeah.
because of how the healthcare structure is structured here in the United
Because
States.
it's not a universal,
I,
basic
uh,
human right.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
not. It's not here,
yeah,
unfortunately.
oh, that's a whole other conversation. But I would just say, don't give up. Just, I know it's
Yeah,
hard. I know it's stressful. I know it can be. The process of even searching can be a defeating. The
it
process of
can.
even
It can be
looking
like
for help.
searching for a needle in a haystack. Is
Yeah,
what it can feel like. Trying to and even if you get to the point where you get there and you're finally in your first meeting, whether it's in person or virtual,
mm,
don't give up hope because the first person that you talk to doesn't seem like a good fit. Sometimes you
no.
might have to try a couple of therapists, because I know
Honestly,
I did.
yeah, it probably will. You probably will have to kind of. It's a process. It's not a magic make me feel better sort of button. You're not going to things more than likely, unless you're very lucky. I'm not saying it can't happen, but unless you're very
Yeah,
lucky, it's the process of getting better, and the process of recovery is just that. It's a process, and it's going to take a lot of steps, and it's going to take effort and work. But the thing is, I promise you, you have what it takes to do it. I absolutely 100% promise you. I don't know if I guess if anything, I can say that because look at my goofy ass, and I was able to find and get help. But the thing is, though, I my biggest point of advice would be to just not give up. I know how stressful it can be. I know how tiresome it is to worry about financing and
yeah.
searching for a therapist and finding someone who's the right fit. And just, I understand firsthand how crazy it can be, especially if you live in the US or a country that is very not cooperative or helpful when it comes to healthcare or mental health in general. But just, I would just say, do your damnedest, because you know what? Do your damnedest, because god damn it, you're worth it. You are
Yes.
worth, you know what? You know what? You are worth the struggle. You are worth your own investment. You are worth, you know what? You you the thing with when you get into that kind of mental state, at least for me, at least I always, my biggest struggle was like, yeah, I'm not worth this kind of cost. I'm not worth this kind of investment. I'm just being a gripey baby, and I'm not worth that. You know what? If it saves your damn life, it's worth it. If it can
Absolutely.
save your actual existence, it's
That's the
worth
best
it.
way. That's the most blunt but effective way that we can put it, is that if it's going to save your life, of course, in any way, no matter how long it takes to get there, of course it's worth it. And I think that there's a lot of factors and limitations that makes everybody's story and situation very, very different and
Oh,
unique to each other. But
absolutely.
at the end of the day, I truly do believe that there is a road out there for everybody to find, and I feel like I've been off wandering in the woods for years, but if you can walk back to the point where you're seeing daylight again, you're out of the trees, and you can, get back on that road. It's not going to be a straight and narrow, because there's no such thing as the straight and narrow, at least not
No,
for most people,
for
I
most
don't think.
people, yeah, no, I
It's
wouldn't
going to be
say.
a long, winding road,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Oh, yeah.
it's just it's not going to be something where you should. I don't want anybody that's maybe listening right now to feel upset because maybe like you can't just go out tomorrow and just walk in and get therapy and get the help you need, because it's not going to be that simple. It's
No,
not for anybody, I don't think, but
ab-
you will get there. You
yeah,
will. Yeah.
absolutely. You can get there. I know it, how hopeless it can seem, but like, and I know other people have probably told you to just stick in there and hang it out, and like I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have probably said, "Oh, you got this," and it feels insincere, but like people, that is honestly the best advice. It's like, man, if you
Yeah.
do stick to it, if you do just do what you got to do for yourself, for your own just well-being, you can friggin' get there. You don't
Yeah.
know what it's gonna look like. You don't know what that journey is gonna entail, and I can almost guarantee you it's gonna look nothing like what you expected it to look like. But man, there is a way, there is a path. You just got to be willing to walk it. You just
Yeah.
got to be willing to do it. And
Absolutely. I guess I will my close for this. I guess the final thing in response to that question, and
mm,
also just kind of saying my journey to what led me to want to go to therapy and make that something that was a priority in my life. For me, it was something that I feel like I kind of ran from a long time, because I didn't think I needed it, and I was like, oh, I can, if I just do this or I just do that, it'll be fine. But there's certain times, and there's a lot of times, actually, I should say, that very real things like depression, anxiety, factors in your life that aren't your fault, not things that you signed up for. I didn't know what anxiety was as a Christian school kid. I know you were there too. We didn't learn
oh,
about these
yeah,
things. I didn't know that
yeah,
I had anxiety, and I
nope.
didn't, no one talked about mental
Mhm.
health or anything like that. And my dad was very secretive and closed off kind of about his own things like that.
I mean,
But
yeah.
long story short, my grandmother, my actual grandmother, died in 1979, and it was from a combination of an overdose on various depression-related medications,
Oh boy.
and
Yeah.
she passed in her sleep, and it was something where I always, just growing up as a kid, it was this like gray area that I felt confused on, because I had my other grandparents, but I didn't have her, and my dad never wanted to talk about her.
Mm,
And
is
the
the
older I
start.
got, the
Oh
more
yeah.
he would reveal about uh,
Mm.
her struggles, the fact that she would feel bedridden, that she would have
Ooh.
periods of depression that she would go through and stuff. And I had noticed similar traits in my dad, and I'm thinking, like, sometimes I feel these things myself too. And the older that I got, the more intense those feelings became, and the more aware I became of that, because
Oh yeah.
the dawning of the internet and stuff, we're able to actually
Yep.
look up and see what these feelings are, and it's like, oh, this isn't just nervousness that I'm having. I almost had a panic attack, or I'm,
Oh, this is
having
a thing. Yeah.
yeah, I'm having an extreme bout of anxiety. Like, I would get called into the principal's office, for example, in high school for something. Even it could just be a routine thing, or I could actually possibly be in trouble. And I would just be like shaking, and I couldn't like get my breath, and it would just be like, what is going on? Like, I don't
Yep.
understand. But I didn't. The word anxiety wasn't in my vocabulary.
Even in your you didn't even understand what was going on
No.
with you. It was
I
just
didn't. I'm like, what's wrong? Or, like,
yeah.
snap out of this. And it's like, I can't control that. And the second, but not the second, but like the years that went by, as I started finally realizing what that was, and as I started, I guess, realizing that I had a toxic relationship with myself and work, and how I perceived things, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
some of the things that, I think everybody has been through shit that you maybe don't have a outlet to really talk about in a proper way, or you don't even know how to
Yeah.
dive into that, or how to get those feelings out. Those are the type of things that made me be like, I have to put this out. I can't just talk to my significant other about this. I can't just kind of lightly tell a friend that I'm going through some shit. I need to actually talk to somebody who is a professional that can actually help me with these things.
Yeah.
So that was the road that led me there. But it's like, once you get there, and once you actually find somebody who is a good fit for your vibe, and you feel like you can, be transparent and it's helpful, and you find somebody who is, being able to help guide you through these thoughts and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's the most important thing, is actually finding that sweet spot where you feel both helped, vulnerable, but not vulnerable in a sense that somebody's judging you, vulnerable in a sense that I can actually finally pull apart these things that led me to wanting to seek help in the first place.
Yeah. It can help you gain so much perspective,
Yeah.
again, because so much of this stuff, again, speaking as someone who was coming from that Christian, I'm sure, oh, we could do a whole other live stream on our experiences in that regard, I'm positive.
Sure. Sure.
But again, coming from an environment where a lot of this stuff isn't even taught to you, you don't even realize what it is you're going through. You're just meant to suffer in silence in a way, and
Yeah.
actually getting the chance to speak with someone and have them sort of show you the perspective on things, sort of, again, let you see things for kind of what they are, and make you realize, maybe some of this stuff isn't your fault, or maybe some of this stuff is, as a result of other, of the people in your life, of their trauma, sort of reflecting back
Yeah.
on. Again, it can, therapy, it's so, the biggest benefit I would say I've gotten from therapy is perspective. It's just actually
Yes.
getting to see something from outside of my own vision, and
It
from
is. It's
outside of
kind of
my
an
own.
out of body experience
Yeah.
once you start to realize, oh my God, I'm doing that to myself, and I'm my biggest. I'm getting in my way, or maybe this thing was put in my way that I didn't see, but it's not even my fault. Like, there's a lot of that
Yeah,
can be opened up in those moments.
exactly.
So
So
anybody like thinking about it, seeking help, or counseling, anything like that, like, obviously both of us recommend it, and I know that there can be experiences that might not feel like a good fit right at first, but don't let that distract you from actually realizing that there is somebody out there that's going to gel with you. You're going to be just fine, and that you can keep going, because we want you here. And I know that deep down, like, so many people do genuinely care, and it gets me a little emotional just seeing people in the chat that I know have dealt with
I
so many things,
yeah,
and
I've been trying to keep my eye on it, and like the number of hearts is
yeah,
so,
it's thank you guys. I think
thank y'all. Thank
that's the
y'all.
best possible reaction that you can give. Is this just it's love, and it's a point of understanding. It's a point of to circle back to the whole idea of this video, is that seeing us as content creators that are actually humans, and not just machines that can pump out opinions on things that you're also passionate about. And just because we might not cover something that you are passionate about doesn't necessarily mean that we're trying to rain on your parade, or whatever it might be, or that we're ignoring something. It's just that, at
Yeah,
the end of the day, sometimes this has got to come before the content and the camera. You know.
Yeah. And again, it's like, and the thing is, like we were talking about earlier, it's so easy to do that to yourself, to make yourself realize, oh, I have to be this automaton. This is what they want. This is what they just want me. They just want their take. They just want their hot take.
And they want they want the right take and all.
They want the right take and everything. Yeah. And it's like, it's nice to be able to step, to have a moment to step away from that and actually see folks say, no, man, like, hey, y'all, hey, you know what? We appreciate just you guys for being you and all, because how often, especially when it comes to like, I don't know how often you trace like your comments. I know you're not very, I know you don't follow your socials.
Not like I used to.
Oh yeah. And I certainly don't blame you there. But again, like even in your own life, if you're watching a YouTube video or something that you enjoy, that you particularly liked, how often do you actually leave a little, hey, I really appreciated this. That was nice. Thank you very much.
It's unfortunately very rare.
Yeah, maybe I'm an asshole, but I don't often do that. You know? So,
but maybe I should.
Because the thing is, like, again, when you do see positive feedback like that, it genuinely can help. It genuinely can.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah. There's been a couple of like it's made me very grateful in recent weeks that I've just seen a few like comments that got a decent amount of attention. I just pulled up my most recent episode of 7 on Sunday, and there's one from Iris here that says, "Hey John, been watching for a while, and I just wanted to say I love how much care and originality you put into your videos. Like every time I click on one of them, I know I'm in for a good time. You really reignited my love for music, and thanks to you, you have really expanded my music taste, so I'll be forever grateful for that. Keep it up." So stuff like that means the world.
It's like that's a little hug over. That's almost a little hug over the internet. That just feels like wonderful.
But it's like I'm not expecting that from everybody on every video. That would just be that would be me asking for an ego stroke at every corner. Yeah. But it's just like it's nice to see those from time to time in the mix, you know. And I really appreciate that. I don't expect them, but when those unexpected little gifts come, I love it. Thank you. It really does help. I think offset some of the negativity that you see and get involved in sometimes.
Because again, more often than not, when someone does interact with a video like that, it's usually for some negative reason,
right?
Somebody trolling because they have nothing better to do, or just
and listen,
the comment section is always hell.
Right, and listen, I'm not always in the right. I make mistakes, and there's times that I maybe need to be put in my place in a comment, and it's fine, okay? But like, I'm just saying that for those times that, for passion projects that maybe we're a part of or whatever, and you do see those comments that come through and they actually get some attention, and it seems like people are like, oh yeah, like that's really true. That, like I can see that Crash did put a ton of effort into that video or whatever. That means the world.
Absolutely, folks. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know. Watching this particular chat has just been so nice, y'all.
Yeah,
thank
you. You guys have been super great. Thank you for hanging out with us and just going through this little journey of things that we just I think kind of wanted to get off of our chests in some way. And just we talked about it behind the scenes a bit, and we were just bouncing off ideas on how we could do this and make it as transparent as possible, not like, oh, we're reading off of a script, here's what here's point number 1, here's point number 2,
A topic like this can be so I don't even know how, if we had made this like a video, I don't even know how to begin.
That would have been a long one. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to leave us with, Crash, before we wrap this up?
My only thing I would want to say is, again, thank you to all of you guys who have jumped in for this.
Thank you for indulging us.
Again, thanks for listening to this and, giving us a chance to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain a little bit here, and
Absolutely.
to earnestly and honestly talk about the process and talk about some of the things. I hope it's been educational. I hope it's been, because I've gotten I don't know about you, but I've gotten a ton of comments over the years saying, "Oh, Crash, I want to do what you do," or what's some advice you would give to me if I wanted to start my career. And I don't know, I feel like anytime I get that, I just want to sit them down and say, I do not even think you are prepared for do you know what you are getting yourself into, City Jim? Ah.
ready, brother?
Oh, it's like okay.
Get
After
ready
I
to
just
rumble.
yeah. Okay, after I show you this list of 10,000 things that can go wrong, are you sure? I'm the John Cena meme. Are you sure
Yes.
about that?
Dun, dun. John Cena. You remember the old John Cena prank call compilation back in the day?
I
Oh, I'm
don't.
gonna have to send you that.
Send me that sometime.
But it also reminds me also of the Charlie from It's Always Sunny pointing his ruler at the chart for like
Oh,
a
yeah.
conspiracy. All the string is connected and everything.
Oh yeah.
That can be what it's like. If somebody asks me, I'm like, how much time you got?
Yeah, right.
Hannah and I did a college lecture on it. I guess it was 3 years ago.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you told me about this.
Yeah, we did. And that was honestly, that was pretty. That was a good. I felt good about it because it just puts it into perspective for a lot of people. These were college students that we talked to that had no idea the ins and outs of YouTube at all. Like we asked for a raise of hands, only like half of them even regularly watched YouTube at all. Or I think it was we asked how many do you actually subscribe to channels or do you just watch whatever's on there? And only like half of them even like actively watched anybody on YouTube. So it was nice to have an audience of people where it's just like, oh,
Man,
we can kind of talk about the ins and outs of everything that goes into this and I don't know.
Yeah, and again, how often do you get the chance to do something like that?
You don't.
So
And that's why we wanted to do it. We wanted to do it, and
I'm glad we
did.
I'm glad we could give you folks a little peek behind the curtain and
Absolutely.
kind of let you see what's up. That was I don't know, like you said earlier, this has been therapy for both of us.
Yes, I'm not ashamed to admit that at all. It's a good outpouring. It's a public conversation, but it's like I feel like Crash, you and I would have had a very similar conversation even if it was just me and you talking one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you very much for having me on. Thank you very much for allowing us to just do this for a while.
Yeah.
Again, it's been fun. It's been always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
And guys, Crash's channel, it's linked. I have you added in the title and in the description if you want to check out. He's got a lot of past content. If you haven't seen it, that I know that you put a lot of love into. And
if I may, I am, just as a little bit of a heads up, I am planning to come back at least before the end of the year. At this stage, I'm pretty much just going to focus on my end of the year videos, more or less, and those will probably be rolling around in December. I'll just kind of put the cap on the year with that, and from there, my future focus is probably to get a bit more gradually started into things after 2021. I'm going to get my end of the years out in December, and those are my eventual plans. I'll keep you guys posted from where we're
right.
At some point I did want to say, oh, by the way, I'm not dead yet. I am gonna come back.
I'm here, but I'm gonna come back on my terms and in a way that it's healthier for me.
Bingo.
Yeah,
couldn't have said it better myself.
That's the main takeaway of this. And guys, same thing for me. If you missed it when I said it earlier, 30 going on 13 is the plan for next year. The channel's going to be 13 years old next September. I'm turning 30 at the end of this year, and I'm only going to be reviewing 30 albums in a dedicated video next year. And to be honest, I've restructured some things already, but I'm not going to be doing Patreon requests anymore, just because I don't think it's fair at this point for me to take on the extra burden for maybe something that I just don't, if I don't want to be like, oh, I'm doing this as a chore. Like I want to genuinely have interest in something. And it's not to say that somebody might not recommend something interesting, but to be honest, I've been enjoying the live streams that we do where I find songs and singles that sometimes push me to check out a full album. If I like a single enough, I end up doing that. It's happened plenty of times with bands like Beach Bunny, and I'm trying to think of some others that I've done it with in recent times. That's how I got into Biffy Clyro in the first place. So thank you to you guys that have been supporting there. Things are going to look a little bit different for both of us next year, but they're positive changes. I promise at the end of the day, even if it feels disappointing in the moment, and even if we don't cover something that you might feel disappointed about, just know that it's not because we're trying to let you down or anything like that. It's just that we're not going to get to everything, and we're realizing that more and more the older we
Yeah. That's true. Honestly, that's true of everyone you may watch that does this.
Yeah.
Like Spectrum Pulse isn't going to get into everything. Luke from Rocked isn't going to get into everything. Fantano is the busiest music nerd in
And
the
yeah,
industry.
that's what kind of what I was hinting at with the
Yeah.
comparing. We cannot compare ourselves to a standard that we'll never be able to meet. I'll never be able to upload 14 videos a week to 2 different channels while also live streaming twice. It's just I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
Not everybody's brain is programmed that way. He's got the internet's busiest music nerd. He's got that market cornered.
That crown is his, and you know what? He long live the king.
Long live the king.
Long live the king. You can have that crown, Anthony. That's all yours, bud.
You should see me in a crown. Not good.
Oh.
And on that note, people,
let's end it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, people. That was the Zinger. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe. Much love.